What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a brand new episode of Liam's First Look, and today we're going over UFC Fight Night, Rozenstruik against Gaziev, and this is going down in the Apex Center back in Las Vegas. We were in Mexico. We've had a couple fun cards. Now the quality's dropping off just a little bit, but the betting opportunities are still there, and we wanted to mix things up a little bit today. On the First Look, I normally come to you guys and say, hey, I'm going to give you my preliminary thoughts, but now I want to expand that out to have a couple sharp cappers on the show with us. So without further ado, let's bring them on board. We got a popular guest returning to the panel, our brother Dravy. How are you, my man?
I'm good, bro. Thanks for having me again, Liam. Been a long time, man. I can act like it's the best card ever, but like you said, there's always money to be made. So I'm excited. I think there's some good spot on this card. So
absolutely, couldn't agree more. And hopefully we can discover some of those. Hopefully share some looks for the people, and also, you know, with a sharp panel like ourselves, hopefully we can come up with some good angles as a unit. So without further ado, the third member of our panel, by popular demand, JB, back in the building.
Yo, what up, my man Liam? Appreciate you having me on. And my dude Liam apparently is sick right now. I don't know if he's really sick or if it's a Raul Rosas situation right now. Who knows? But I appreciate him coming on. And my dude, thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, brother. I am a little bit under the weather, but I got to say, I got some sleep. I got a little bit of rest. I'm feeling a lot better than I was earlier today. So appreciate the panel being a little flexible with me, but now we're well rested, ready to rumble. And if you guys are new here, welcome aboard. We just want to say this is going to be coming from the top all the way down. We're starting with the main event of the evening in the heavyweight division. We've got Jairzinho, Bigi Boy, Rozenstruik taking on Shamil Gaziev. And obviously Gaziev is a guy off the Contender Series. This is a guy that I thought looked all right on Contender. I didn't think he blew my hair back. Beat Greg Velasco. Pretty solid win. Guy from the CFFC regional scene. I called how that fight was going to play out. I thought it was going to get into the scrambling. I thought it was going to get into the grappling. And I thought that was Velasco's only chance. You know, Velasco is a guy that maybe doesn't have the same power and speed and mobility as a guy like Gaziev. So I felt like those things were always going to hold him back in the matchup. But Gaziev, a little bit green sometimes on the mat. He could do better than a lot of heavyweights, but he does make some mistakes. He did give up his back in a heavyweight fight, right? That's uncommon, but he was able to recover from there. He didn't panic when he was in the bad spots. I thought that was a good sign for him as well. So there are some positive notes on the Gaziev side. He does not have nearly the UFC experience of Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but he does have an ability to mix up his game. He's got knockouts on the feet. He's got an ability to mix in the submissions on the ground. For Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's been working continuously at American Top Team and also Bigi Boy camp, I think, in Suriname. But he's been trying to improve that takedown defense because he's got explosive power on the feet, but he doesn't always have the best volume. He doesn't always go out there and commit to his offense. He's been trying to get better about going out there, exploding on people early. I think that's the path for him to beat a lot of these guys. I think if he's able to get back up to his feet and create explosions, that's his way of winning this fight as well. But I do just have a feeling Gaziev is probably going to be able to take him down almost at will in this contest. And if that's the case, I think it's not going to be a good situation for him. So the things I want to review on tape, maybe the Curtis Blades fight, a couple of these other wrestling scenarios, but I just feel like I've seen him get barreled over a lot of times. And I also think Gaziev is a uniquely athletic guy. He was on the Dagestan volleyball team, you know, which I know sounds kind of silly, but like he was a guy who was qualified to do other athletics and then found his way to MMA. I think that's where he's been trying to put together that experience, not as experienced as Bigi Boy, but just has more layers, I think, to his game where he can mix it up. And that can be a problem for Bigi Boy. It's been in the past several times. How do you feel about this one, my brother? We'll kick it over to you first, Javy.
yeah, it's an interesting fight. It's kind of rare. We see that like UFC debut and then boom, a big step up in main event. You know what it reminded me of? The last time that Abus Nurmagomedov, he got like an impressive first round knockout, and then he fought Sean Strickland in the main event. Didn't end well for him in that spot. That was his second fight, right? Maybe I'm tripping, but I'm pretty sure it was.
No, you're correct. And I think like I hadn't remembered anybody since like Yuri Prohaska moving straight to a main event.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something common. And I mean, I bet Gaziev in his debut at plus money against Budai. He killed a guy, but I mean, he didn't have any resistance. Like Budai didn't want to be in the fight. That was kind of weird. But at the same time, I mean, Gaziev didn't respect him at all. So that was kind of tricky because if you come out there and he does the same, he didn't really try to wrestle, but I was just like he was rushing him and he was just destroying the guy. So in this spot, if you try to do that, we know that Rozenstruik is a very good kickboxer and he's very good at countering. So maybe he's gonna get sniped. And also, I'm curious about his cardio a little bit, because we know that in tapes, it didn't look good when you go past the first round, past 7 to 8 minutes. So maybe take him down early and then he finish him, because we know that, like you said, Rozenstruik's takedown defense is decent at best, but his ground game is not good. And Gaziev is the more well-rounded fighter, so he should be able to mix in the takedowns if he's smart. But when you have a big step up in competition like that, I don't really want to get involved at chalk personally. I kind of want to see like how the fight plays out. And yeah, I mean, Rozenstruik is live to knock him out. We know that he has big power. He has been in the division for a long time, but we know that he struggled against guy that can do things on the ground. So, I mean, Gaziev on the mat he should rolls him, but on the feet, I think Rozenstruik can get a knockout. So it's kind of tricky. But Liam, to me, was like they opened the under 1.5. I think I plus money. I didn't get the plus money, but I got minus 115 on the under 1.5. I think that was a very good bet.
It's like minus 200 now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't understand. They opened it plus money, I'm pretty sure. Let me just confirm to you. Yeah, plus 120. So I didn't get that, but I was able to get minus 115. And I didn't really understand the line at first. Yeah, I just feel like they're gonna go out there, kill or be killed, and either Rozenstruik knockout. I can see Gaziev knockout. I can see Gaziev sub. It's kind of tricky to know exactly what's gonna happen, but we know for a fact that somebody's gonna get served here. And yeah, I think Gaziev only went over 1.5 one time, and the time that Rozenstruik win, it's almost always under 1.5. So I feel like we get some decent value rather than picking a side. At minus 200, I think there's still some value on it, to be honest, but I'm not as passionate about minus 200, but again, it's less than 70%. And if you look at the statistic and the matchup, it's kind of good, So maybe as a party piece now, but if you can get under minus 200, it's even better, So yeah, I'm going to pick Gaziev, Liam, but to be honest, I'm not confident. I'm confident that someone's going to die under 1.5 round. I don't know if you agree, but I think that's what's going to happen.
I think you got in at a great number. I do think that it's now a little bit more precarious, right, as it approaches 70%. I think that's like probably closer to accurate. The one thing about heavyweight fights is like they either end right away or, they could be Jailton Almeida, Derek Lewis, where you're like, how has this been going on for 25 minutes, But I do think way more often than not in this matchup, and way more often than minus 115 would imply, this fight's ending under 1.5 rounds. I think that's an excellent bet. And I also think, to your point, both guys really live to win this fight by finish, multiple methods. So I totally agree there. I think that's a great spot. What do you think about this one, JB? Any looks for you?
Yeah, I kind of like the Rozenstruik side as of right now. I mean, it's still early in the week, so we're kind of just kicking it back, chatting early on. But I think he's fought in the way better level of competition. Like, his losses are to Ngannou, which was a huge step up for him. I thought that was kind of a bit quick, crazy call out. And Ngannou, I guess, what did Joe Rogan say? He had the bazooka versus the gun. And that's what wound up happening there. But I do agree that usually he gets his wins done early, but he got a round 2 finish against Junior Dos Santos and even a round 5 finish against Alistair Overeem where he split his lip open. So the guy has, like, better cardio than I would think. He still has knockout power all the way into a 5th round against Alistair Overeem. So I think the later this fight goes, the more that would favor Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So I think Gaziev's path here is a round 1 sub. He's going to have to get this fight to the ground quick. He could technically knock out Rozenstruik, but I think Rozenstruik is the better fighter on the feet. I think he's quicker. I think it would have to be kind of just a overhand right for Gaziev. I think I'm going to go at Rozenstruik here as of right now. It's still early, and I think I might get an even better price. So I got to do more film, but I think he's the better kickboxer. And Jailton Almeida, man, like, I'm not going to knock you for losing to that guy. Everybody's losing to that guy. Everybody's getting beat by that dude. Curtis Blades, great heavyweight wrestler. Not going to hold you for getting taken down by him. And I just don't think Gaziev's wrestling is that great. Like,
I actually bet him in that spot against Curtis. And if you remember, Curtis's eye was like completely shut.
Right.
I actually thought he like overperformed there.
Yeah, he had Curtis hurt bad. And you know what? This guy's fought who? Murad Abradev, Grigory Ponomar, like Kirill Kornilov. I remember that fight. It went to split decision, and he looked tired, super gassed. Like if that happens against Rozenstruik, he's going night-night, bro. So I think he's got to take him down early, get him down early, and if not, it's going to be a bad fight for him. And Rozenstruik could finish him early as well. We saw that early in his career. He was finishing guys. That's what he was known for. That's why he fought Francis Ngannou, because he was finishing guys in round one right away. So I think his stock is a bit low, and we're getting an overrated fighter in Gaziev who has no losses on his record, but is new, contender series guy, coming off 2 finishes. But that's where I'm at right now. Not sure where I'll get to. I'll probably wait till the last second to bet it, honestly, because I think more money's going to come in on Gaziev.
Yeah, this is a fight where I'm not sure where the line's going. I think this is a difficult fight to call. It's a heavyweight fight, right? So I do think overconfidence killed the cat at heavyweight. It's not a weight class where you want to get overinvested, but I do think path to victory is something I consider. The other thing I want to point out, I like to do quality of competition in 2 different ways, right? Who have you lost to, but then who have you beat? And the facts are like Jairzinho has been beating, some of the lower end guys in the division. Dawkins was at his lowest in terms of stock, basically, has moved down a division, right? Obviously a little bit undersized at heavyweight. So he got put out, in the first round there pretty quickly. Augusto Sakai, guy who's been cut from the UFC, I think off a win. So not a guy that they were like very high on. Maybe they'll bring him back. Who knows? But in any case, like another guy who's like pretty lower end in the division and been knocked out a couple of times as well on the way out. Then you think about the win over Junior Dos Santos. I mean, pretty washed at that point in his career. The same thing could be said for Alistair Overeem, Andrei Arlovsky. Like he caught a lot of these guys at the right time. Alan Crowder was the win before that. So it's like this guy was fighting nobodies at heavyweight, and then he fought a bunch of the best guys. He lost to almost every one of them that was like really good. And then he beat a couple of guys along the way that are like more along his level. Both these guys are around the same age. But when I think about why they keep giving Jairzinho these big opportunities, it's because kill or be killed type of style, right? Easy finishes on the ground for a Jailton Almeida, no problem. He gets cleaned up by Volkov. That one really surprised me. That was the one where I thought like Volkov's been looking washed. He's been looking a little bit tired. He's been looking like he doesn't care about his fights. And then he shows up to that one and he looked a lot better, but also Bigi Boy looked tiny. Like he looked like a fraction of the size. He's going to be at virtual size parity with Gaziev here. So I just lean ever so slightly to Gaziev because he has those more paths to victory. I do think he could knock out Rozenstruik on the feet as well. I think he has a decent amount of power, but I think Rozenstruik much more likely to win the fight by knockout. I think for Gaziev, he wins the fight by TKO. Take him to the ground, beat him up. And I think he could just pass positions, sit on him. That's the one thing at heavyweight. It's hard to get back up once you're down. So if he's able to stuff all these takedowns, I'll just say hats off to him. God bless. But I do lean towards violence here one way or the other. So that's how you have it. But first fight of the night, closely lined heavyweight contest. And I think that it's an interesting one, but it's not one I feel extremely bullish. I'm going to do more tape and see if I come out with stronger convictions later in the week. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not really on my part. I think we covered it pretty well. But violence Perfect. Is the play. Yeah. So sometimes, like you said, these heavyweight fight, you bet the under, and it's kind of tricky. But like they end up going to decision. Like Almeida against Lewis, that was crazy. But I think these days it happened more with lower level guys at heavyweight that they go over.
Fair play. Now, let's move on to the next fight, and we'll have you start us off, my brother. We've got Vitor Petrino taking on Tyson Pedro. How do you feel about this matchup? We'll start off with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of high on Petrino, Liam. Like, the dude is an absolute tank. Like, I mean, he looks to be on the juice. It's kind of crazy, and he can pack a punch. But to me, what is so impressive is his cardio. Like, the dude is a tank, and he swing big, and the first thing you're thinking is, oh, he's gonna get tired after 5 minutes, but no, he's still finishing dude in the second and third round. He's still winning decision if needed, which is impressive as hell because of his physique and his power. He carries power late, which is great. And I also love the fact that he's mixing in the takedown right now. So like the dude can wrestle, the dude can grapple now as well. He's not like the best grappler, but he can do it. And to me, what I think is kind of crazy is the way he always find a way to get to reverse people and to get on top when like he's in bad position. Like he finds a way, which is important in MMA. Sometimes we see guys that are in a bad position and they kind of accept the bad position. He's not, so that's good. And on the feet, don't get me wrong, he's a little bit wild, and Pedro's gonna be live to catch him early. I think Pedro's a little bit faster than him. He's more technical for sure. So maybe on the feet, it can look a little bit dicey in the first round. But then we know the deal with Pedro. I bet him in his last fight, he was plus money against the Pleasure Man. He smoked him. That was an impressive performance. But then if you look a little bit, Pedro has never. If you look a little bit more, Pedro has never won a fight that go past the first round, which is not a good look in my opinion. Not to say his cardio is. I don't think his cardio is as bad as what people think, but it's definitely not good. You know, he's also a good grappler of his own. But in this fight, I don't see him landing takedown personally. I think the wrestling upside is going to come from Petrino. And the difference is Petrino, when he gets on top, he has very good ground and pound as well, which open his submissions. I think that's a good look from him. But also, he's going to be way stronger than Pedro. Like, I think he can slam him to the ground if he wants. And on the feet, I also think that he's more durable, and I think that he wants more to win than Pedro. In the sense that when Pedro's starting to fade a little bit, doesn't go his way, you can see that he has a little bit of that quit in him. I don't see that in Petrino, you know. Even when he got hurt on Contender, I love to see a fighter get hurt and see how they recover, how they face adversity. And that was kind of impressive. He has good recovery, very good chin too. But yeah, I'm kind of high on his ceiling. I think he has good upside in the UFC, Petrino. And I don't think Pedro's bad by any means, but I think he's a little bit first round or bust in this spot. And it's hard for me to see him getting a first round knockout. I don't really see a sub personally. So if you want to bet Pedro, maybe the first round at plus 600 can be a good look. But yeah, I favor Petrino to win if there's a decision. I think he has knockout upside, maybe submission upside, but I'm not too sure about that because I do rate Pedro grappling. But yeah, I mean, Pedro to win this fight, he has to like kind of play a perfect fight and not get taken down. And we need to count on his cardio, which I don't trust at all. So yeah, I think Petrino's a deserved big favorite in this spot. I know people might like the dog, but I'll say if you like Pedro, maybe take the first round. First round, I'm looking at bet online right now. It's plus 600 still. It's pretty good. That's more often than not, that's his path to victory. But yeah, I can see Petrino winning in any rounds, in any methods, you know. But it's hard for me to see Pedro winning outside of a first round knockout personally.
Fair play, my man. I think there's a couple nuances to this matchup that I'm excited to talk about. But first, we'll kick it to my man JB and see what he has to say.
Sure. I love Petrino's grappling, actually. I think this guy's got great top control. I don't like what I see from Pedro on the ground. This dude got straight arm locked from half guard position by Ovince St. Preux. Dude literally grabbed his arm, stretched, straightened it out, dude tapped. To me, that's like just a quitting, like that's a quitter to me. There's ways to get out of that move. And if he gets that spot with Petrino, Petrino's going to use that third point just pressure with his lat from the half guard position. He could wrap up guillotines. He could wrap up arm triangles. He even went for our famous Ortega rear naked choke against Marcin Prachnio, and then eventually wound up just getting the regular arm triangle. I think this dude's strong. Like Dravy said, he looks like he's on the juice. I'm almost 100% he's on the juice, and if not, who cares? Because he's just a freak athlete anyway. And the fact that he could hold that cardio all the way to the end, I think he's going to break this guy, and I think he's going to get on top. I like the way he doesn't give up position for submission. He floats on top. He'll go and transition from one position to the next. He works with Fabricio Camos as well, IBJJF black belt, two-time champ, I believe. I think those guys are very smart. I think they see the weaknesses from Pedro on the ground. They're going to get this fight where they feel comfortable. Like you said, we know that Pedro's chances are round one knockout, right? So you don't think his coaches, I mean, I'll have to put two and two together. They probably know that as well, and I think he's going to take the smartest approach here. I think he's a higher IQ fighter. He's going to get this fight to the ground where he feels comfortable. I like a round one submission here. I think he gets this. Yeah, he's a powerhouse. He could get a knockout, this guy's very, very cerebral with the way he grapples, and I think he's cerebral with the way he fights. He's going to put Pedro where he's least comfortable, where we've seen him get submitted in the past and get it done. I already got a bet in on it. The line already moved, so I like where that's going.
Yeah, this is a spot where, I got burned on I think it was Turcali by sub and Fight Ends by sub when he fought Petrino. And that did tell me a lot. When he fought him, I said to myself, man, this guy Petrino, he's so physically strong. It doesn't matter if these guys are just better at grappling. Like, they have to be able to compete with him physically. And that is where this becomes slightly more interesting to me, because I do think Tyson, when he's fresh in round one, can compete physically with Petrino. Petrino is a roid head, no doubt about it. Like, he's absolutely juiced to the gills. My guy Derek Brunson's got him, probably meeting the right doctors, hanging out with the right people. But it's like, I think about Petrino, and I do, remember when people thought, maybe he's not that good, because he kind of got a setup fight, right? Adolfo Bellato beat him on the regional scene, and then they booked it again for Contender. It's like, I thought that they were actually trying to sign Bellato, because they then bring Bellato back and put him in a more favorable matchup the next time. I thought it was like a redemption arc for Bellato. And if you guys remember that fight, Bellato drops him in round one, if my memory serves. Like, he comes out like a bat out of hell, like they're exchanging, and Petrino like wobbles. He's definitely been in some compromised positions. So I do think when I look at Tyson Pedro, I was not expecting that performance against Turcali. I thought he was going to go out there and just dominate Turcali on the ground, because he saw that this guy, did that. So like, that's kind of what I thought he was going to implement. Instead, he just knocked him dead and then takes the sword out on him. Gangster celebration. So that is the one thing for me where I'm like, Tyson Pedro seems to have the confidence. He does seem to have, gotten back to, a good point in his career. He's still a young enough guy for this division to compete. Obviously, Petrino is in a much better position, right? 26 years of age. But that's also a position where you can afford a loss along the way. That's a lesson. And this guy hasn't really been humbled. I kind of thought he was out there exchanging a little reckless in his last fight as well, kind of taking some risks, because he knows I can knock these guys out. I'm powerful. I'm a bad man. But when you do that with guys like Tyson Pedro that have had 10 UFC fights and that know how to finish fights, you could get caught. You could get clipped in round one. Absolutely. So I do think that Jarabi makes a great point about the fact this could end early. But on top of that, it's like, when I look at Tyson, I don't think this is a guy that has no chance to compete late into a fight. I do think he's shown elements of gassing out in the past, but most of the fights where he's lost that have gone late, he's actually injured in the fight as well. So when you talk about durability, I think that's a knock against him. But when you talk about like cardio, it's like, is my cardio bad, or can I not stand? Like, can I not move my knee properly? Like, those kind of things, I give you a little bit more of like, it's like survival mode out there. Like, please don't hurt me anymore. I'm trying to just get to the end. And I think that in this spot, he's got a chance to win. I do think he's confident coming into this matchup. I think he's in good shape. So it's not a fight where I think Vitor Petrino, it's written. But I do think the longer the fight goes, I've liked what I've seen from Vitor in terms of getting to the right positions, getting on top of people. He's a physical Hulk. And so do I think his jiu-jitsu is like super technical? The honest truth is no, I do not. But he doesn't need to be. He's a horse. That guy grabs you in the third round. It's all said and done. Thanks anyway. And Marcin Prachnio came out and had a decent showing in his last fight. But in that fight with Petrino, the physicality is what actually sapped his energy. And so I think that a lot of people will look for Petrino early here. And I don't fault you for the sub, right? It's like a crazy look. Especially people won't see it coming. So you can maybe get some value there. I think he has one career submission. I did call that one, by the way. Sub 3. I said sub 3 or unanimous decision. Marcin was not winning that fucking fight. But in any case, when I look at this one, I think that this is a guy who's dangerous, right? Marcin, for me, not dangerous. That's why I was like, Petrino is going to find a way to win this fight. I think that this is a dangerous opponent. So that's where my hesitation comes from. But I like Vitor Petrino. I like Derek Brunson. We had the same college wrestling coach. Like, obviously there's some biases there. And I do think he's got a intimidating ground game late in the fight, but I do think in the early going, Pedro can compete with him in all positions. So that for me is the interesting look on this fight from a live betting standpoint. We don't always talk about that on this show. But from a live betting standpoint, I may look to get in live on Petrino if things start to go dicey at the end of round one. Because then I just think he can push through. He can find a way to win. Whereas Pedro, I do think is a little bit sketchier to fall off. But to arb for plus money on both sides, something like that, I do think there's a chance he goes out there and just loses his first round pretty cleanly. because he's competing close with a lot of these guys. It's just that he can compete longer. He's tougher. He's more durable. I think all those factors matter. But at light heavyweight, this is not like you could go out there and make a bunch of mistakes and there's no consequences. You make one mistake with a guy like Tyson Pedro, he could just knock you out. So those are the things that I think are interesting about the fight, but got to do a little more tape and due diligence, because the tape is what told me he was going to win by sub 3 or unanimous decision against Marcin Prachnio. And I'll do the same due diligence here, but that's my concern coming in. Cause like I said, I thought he was going to go out there and submit Turcali, and he said, hold this. And he slept the man. So Turcali went to 3 rounds. He toughed it out. He fought with Petrino. And I don't think it's 1-to-1 MMA math, but I just think like this guy showed I could go out there and finish the same guys that you're going to decision with. I can finish the guys that you're having competitive rounds with. So I don't think we know like this guy is 100 levels above him. I just think he has way higher ceiling, right? So we know long-term who's more likely to be a champion. It's like obviously Vitor Petrino, but could he have a stumbling block along the way? Many of the greats have. And I just wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Tyson Pedro, who's been around a long time, who's still got a lot to prove in my mind, that's something I'm looking for here. But I also think Dixon not wrong here. Prachnio is tougher than Pedro. So we'll have to see how it goes down the stretch. Hate the prospect of fading my guy, but we'll see where this line ends up, because I just think light heavyweight, volatile matchups in divisions where anybody can get slept. And I just don't want to get out over my skis, but I like Vitor, so I'd love to see him keep it going. Next up, guys, we've got Alex Perez taking on Muhammad Mokaev, and we don't have to be as long on this one because this fight has a 25 to 75% chance of not happening. To be serious, we wish him the best. Hopefully he gets to this fight healthy, but it is just a formality to explain going into these fights. Like this guy, Alex Perez, as likely as not to not show up for this fight. But let's see how it goes. Dravy, we'll kick it to you first, my brother. How do you feel?
Yeah, if the fight happened, Liam, I think this line's crazy. I'll be honest with you. I know people love to shit on Perez because he's not fighting, but if you look at his tape, the dude's actually good. Like, I mean, he's a good fighter. To me, the best part of his game is like, he's a very good wrestler, but the leg kicks, man, like his leg kicks are a thing of beauty. And I think we can all agree on the point about this fight is Perez is the better striker. I mean, that's something I think we can all agree on. And now Mokaev has been way more active, so I think that's something that go for him. Perez so inactive; he doesn't have much cage time in the last few years, and we know that Mokaev cardio is very good. We know that he's gonna be like, we know that the dude can fight 15 minutes. We know that he can shoot 15, 20, 25 takedowns if he needs to. So that's the thing. But then if you look a little bit deeper, what I don't like about Mokaev is, yes, he's a good wrestler, but I don't like that he's not doing much on top. Like, he doesn't really do ground and pound. He doesn't really do damage that much. He's kind of content to control people. And yes, he's a good grappler, but he's not a submission grappler of the same level of a guy like Pantoja and Figueiredo, the guys that are submitting Perez recently, and to your point, Dixon, in the comment, that's also true. Perez is 12-1 to the decision, and I kind of think this fight's going to go the distance personally. And I have a guy in Perez, which I think is wrestling is pretty solid. So maybe Mokaev can take him down. I'm not too sure you can control him for a long period of time. And I know that Alex has been submitted a couple times, but I'm not too high on Mokaev BJJ. I'm interested to see what you have to say about that, Liam, because I know you're a good grappler yourself. But I mean, the guy took 3 rounds to submit Malcolm Gordon. I know he's a black belt, but still, that's a guy that is ready to quit and make a ton of mistakes. And he almost got submitted in that fight by Gordon in reference. And I just feel like Mokaev is someone he has very big ceiling, but he's still very young. He's still making mistakes, but at the same time, he's someone that's going to be improving from fight to fight. He's been way more active than Perez, so that's that for him. So yeah, I think Mokaev is good. I think he should be the favorite, don't get me wrong, but now we're talking about Perez around -300, which I think it's all because people hate him because of the inactivity. People don't take him serious. But then again, you look a little bit deeper into his tapes, and the dude's good, man. Like, I bet Pantoja against him was a long time ago, but I remember I got -138 when I look back at it. Pantoja, I know he didn't close -138. He closed maybe -160, -175, but still, I had a bet on Pantoja at these odds. And now we're talking about Mokaev, -400 against him. a guy that I think has decision upside. Don't get me wrong, but again, Alex Perez is 12-1 to the decision. He's a good wrestler of his own. Maybe the cardio doesn't hold up. Then if you look on his Instagram, the dude has a business now. You know that maybe his head is not into the game, but at the same time, he's training people. He's in training camp. He's coaching guys. He helped Cody Garbrandt in his last training camp, so he's still into the game, but maybe he's not 100%. And I know for a fact that Mokaev is 100% in this game. So yeah, to me, it got to be dog or pass, and I kind of love Perez in that spot at these odds at least. You can make Mokaev the favorite. I understand that, but higher than -200, it's kind of hard for me to justify if we talk skills for skills, and we don't. It's always important to talk about and consider in your capping the things around the matchup. But I think in this line, maybe they're just too high percentage in the current line than the skills for skills and the matchup in general. So yeah.
I don't hate that take. I do think Perez has some, low kick upside. But to be fair, I think the one difference between these two guys, we kind of mentioned this in the last fight, right? The quit that people see in Tyson Pedro, that's the reason they want to fade him, right? It's a reason I would want to fade Alex Perez, not to say that he's a quitter or something like that, but 5 submission losses in his career. I would also just, encourage people. Yes, that stat is true. The 12-1, to the decision, go look at the quality of opposition in those fights, right? I think most of it is regional level, terrible fighters. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but just like very low level. Then when you start working your way up to the UFC, like Mark De La Rosa, a couple guys that are just like no longer with the promotion, right? He also doesn't fight very frequently now. So how do we compare him to like a Tim Elliott and these guys that are like, former title challenger, way more active, going out there, getting their own clear decisions in their fights and then getting beat by Mokaev? I mean, I think Mokaev's shown way more on his resume. Like, I just think Perez got into some great opportunities, right? Flyweight was kind of a thin division, needed some talent at the top. He got a couple finishes, Jussier Formiga, a little bit older guy in the division, beat him up with the low kicks. But I honestly thought at the -2, whatever price it was, that Mokaev was the side there. Now, I didn't bet it, but I just had done some preliminary research here. And the thing I don't like about Perez is just he puts himself in some vulnerable grappling situations. I think Mokaev can make him pay for those things. I think a lot of the guys that Mokaev's fought are grapplers first. Jafel Filo, not a joke of a grappler. He can really grapple with guys. And he went out there and tried to pull his knee off. And this dude was like, you got to break it. I'm not tapping unless the thing's inside out. And so I don't see that same willpower from Alex Perez, right? Like, you're in a guillotine choke in a UFC title fight. Go to sleep, brother. I mean, that's my opinion. It was obviously a terrible position, terrible situation, but just like what Michael Bisping is like bleeding from both eyes, like, scratching and clawing. That's the kind of reaction I'd want to see in a title fight, in that kind of scenario. And instead, like, it was honestly like a panic reaction, I thought, to the guillotine, never flat backed himself either. I think Mokaev would absolutely submit him in those same positions. So that's the one thing. It's like Mokaev makes mistakes. He's young, but he also makes mistakes sometimes being aggressive in the pursuit of the submission. And I think there's a guy he can submit. So I think the UFC match made this appropriately, but I also think they're taking a big risk, right, of just wasting his time. But this was a guy that they had tried to like fast track, youngest champion, this kind of thing. If he was to fight Pantoja at UFC 301, which, by the way, nobody wants to see that Royval rematch. I'm sorry. And he's also injured. But like, that's kind of where the UFC's at. They need a challenger. They need somebody that they can promote. And I do think they are strapping a rocket ship to his back if he wins this weekend and if he finishes. I think UFC 301 is in desperate need of a headliner. They're talking about Pereira. Like, hey, man, maybe if you go out there and knock him out in the first round, we'll turn you around for 301. It's like, what a terrible idea. What an awful plan. So I do think they're probably going to want Mokaev to win this fight by any means necessary, but they don't always get what they want. So we'll see what happens. Perez would be, another wrinkle in that division, but I just think we've kind of seen how that one goes, right? So, JB, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, he's not a guy that the UFC could even trust to make the fights. So, right, I think they obviously want Mokaev to win in this spot. But I do agree, Perez does have the skills, but I think early is his path to victory. Probably would be in round 1. I think the later this fight goes, Mokaev's going to break him down. Perez did compete against Roman Bravo. Bravo was able to mount him, get him into spots like that. So I think in MMA, Mokaev could have success, especially if he's able to get on top of Perez. Perez had some wrestling experience in the past. He said he was the only brother in his family that didn't go to States. That's unfortunate for him, but he had some high school wrestling experience, possibly at the JUCO level, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But he's getting older, hasn't fought in a while. His losses are to the top level of competition, and recently he has been submitted. But go back to his loss against Joseph Benavidez. Benavidez hurt him, I believe, on the feet. I believe it was Steve Mazzagatti came in to stop it, and then it's like, nah, just keep fighting. And then Benavidez,
the Mazzagatti classic.
right, proceeds to just keep beating on him. And I think Mokaev's live here in that spot. Look, when he fought Cody Durden, everybody thought, this kid is he going to be the real deal? Comes out, probably going to submit him. And he did submit him in that spot. But if you remember early, it was a flying knee that knocked Cody Durden down. The kid has nasty flying knees, spinning elbows, even elbows from the clinch, knees from the clinch. So, yeah, I think Perez is the better stand-up fighter early. But I think Mokaev, like I said, could break him. I think Perez has the quit in him. I don't think he really wants to be there. I honestly think he's coming for a paycheck. Just like my man Liam said, they're going to get this win for Mokaev, and that is what it is, man. I think this is another step in the Mokaev direction. I think there's going to be a time to fade him, but this isn't it. I like him to get a finish here.
The one thing I want to say to bolster my man Dravy's point, though, is I always look at historical lines, right? And you do just want to see like how people are perceived over time. And I think it's interesting that Perez goes from being like plus 170 against the champion to, plus 3, plus 250, whatever it is against Mokaev. Like that's obviously a interesting line, but I also think that's almost telling of like, what would we see them open up a Pantoja and Mokaev line at? I honestly have no idea. I think that would be an interesting line to see from bookmakers. But how do you feel, my man? Please go ahead and defend your position if you like, because I know we said some things that we disagree, but you're a very sharp guy. So curious what your thoughts are.
It's all good, bro. And at the end of the day, like I know people love Mokaev, but to me, when you look at historically, like you said, his line, he was like minus 500 to minus 1,000 in his UFC fights. And name me one fight that he covers price tag, unless don't talk the Cody Durden fight, because that's the fight that he did. But except that, like even against like Gordon, Philo, Tim Elliott, all these people, he didn't cover his price tag. And like you said, I mean, if you watch Perez against Pantoja and Figueiredo, the line that he was against them, and now he's like a big dog against Mokaev. I think it's a lot of that has to do with inactivity and the hype around Mokaev. And sometimes, Liam, like one of the most profitable thing is to go against the hype when you bet on a fighter. And I feel like people are very low on Perez and very high on Mokaev in this spot. And that's why 100%. I think that's why we're getting a plus 300 on this. And at the end of the day, plus 300, like how wrong can you be? Like, I understand that.
I love it.
I understand that, like, the UFC want Mokaev to win. I agree with everything. I agree that he should win. But again, he's gonna lose one day. Like, I don't think he's unbeatable, and he's gonna lose one day. Maybe Alex Perez is not the guy, but I think that he's arguably, I think he's one of the best fighters he ever fought. And you also talk about the level of competition, and yeah, he beat Tim Elliott in his last fight. But we also need to remember he was down on the scorecard. He was on his way to lose that fight if it go the distance. He got his magical third round sub, Maybe we need to play Mokaev sub 3 again, because that's how you win. And again, against Gordon, like I said, he almost got submitted in that fight. He dominated Johnson, good performance, and he finished Durden quickly. And against Phil, I was not that impressed. I had Mokaev ITD in that fight, and I was like, oh boy, okay, it's not looking good. I also had him ITD, I think, against Tim Elliott, and I had him ITD against Gordon. And he's finishing these dudes, but like with 1 or 2 minutes left, I'm like, okay. So, yeah, in this spot, I'm just not confident that he's gonna finish Perez. So that's the thing. If he doesn't finish him, what's the fight look like? So that's kind of what I have to say with this one. But yeah, you guys are right. He should win, right? He's minus 350, minus 400. But yeah, I just think the dog is live, and there's not a lot of dogs on this card that are live. I think Perez is probably one of the best dog on the card, and they're probably not all gonna win. I know GB, you love to go against the people at time, but everybody has Mokaev in the parlay this week,
So see, I'm thinking everybody's gonna go Mokaev by sub. So I like what my man Lando, I think it was Lando in the chat, saying that he's gonna sprinkle the KO and Mokaev inside the distance. I love it, brother.
Yeah, I've made a couple, systemic donations to the Mokaev by KO prop. It's like a weekly tradition for me. Every fight week for Mokaev, I'm like, you know what? Plus 900, plus 1,000. This guy's gonna knock him out, and then he submits him in the third round. So yeah, man, it's definitely been a grind going out there and betting that and losing it over and over. But it is the kind of thing where I kind of believe in system betting props that you believe in, right? Like if it hasn't come through for you, but it's an insane price every time, then I almost believe in just sticking to the system. If there's something you saw, if there's a reason you believed in it, then the worst thing you could do is not bet it the time that it hits, and then you'd be, beating yourself up. So I try and think about it as a long-term game in that way. So if you like taking the underdog shot every time in this scenario, like I can't fault you at all. I do I do prefer to be on the underdog side every time, right? Like if I could be on a side, if I could pick, I'm always going to pick on the dog side. But if I don't feel it, then I'm also not going to force it. So on this one, I don't feel it, but I don't think it's crazy. And I definitely understand the logic, right? You got a guy in Perez with way more experience, both in the UFC and as a professional. So can't fault you there, my brother. Next up, we got Matt Schnell taking on Astro Boy, Steve Erceg. And this is another big favorite in Steve Erceg taking on a more experienced UFC guy in Matt Schnell. But there's some of the same elements that you see, in these other matchups where Matt Schnell maybe not as durable, maybe not somebody you can rely on in terms of the ability to hold up to those big shots, the pressure. But we've also seen at times, chins are hard to predict in MMA, right? Sumo Darchi's landing every shot he wants to against Matt Schnell.
Crazy.
Matt Schnell is what I like to call time traveling, right? He's like out there looking off in the distance, like trying to figure out where he is and why this guy's punching him. And then all of a sudden, he just finds a way to come back on him. So I do think Matt Schnell has shown that heart, right? That ability to will himself back into a fight. But I do think the durability is like comically bad at times, man. The Hector Sandoval knockout is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in MMA, where he just goes like, like it literally looked like that, guys. If you go back and rewatch it, Hector Sandoval goes, and my man just goes like he was a dead body. It was unreal. But I think that Schnell has gotten a little bit better about hiding his chin in his fights. He's done a little bit of a better job trying to work behind the jab, work into the grappling. But even in some of those grappling positions, I believe we've seen him panic. He can be very good on offense. But I do think from a defensive standpoint, I do not like his reactions when he gets put in grappling scenarios. I don't like his defensive showing all the time. So for me, I think Astro Boy is going to find a way to get this done. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's pretty durable. Do I believe in laying minus 300 chalk prices? No, that's not my style. But I just think Astro Boy is probably going to win the fight. Curious what your thoughts are, my brother.
Yeah, if you guys have not watched Schnell versus Sue, you need to run that fight back right now. That's an absolute banger of a fight. And you know what, Liam? I had Matt Schnell at plus 200 in that fight, bro. Was it a great bet? Probably not. Like he got.
It's a great bet to me, damn it.
But bro, that was crazy, Liam. Like that fight was a banger. But yeah. Like you said, you talk about the durability, and to me, that's the main difference in this matchup. We have a guy in Erceg that he get hit, like he's not very good striking. His striking defense is not very good, but man, the dude is super durable, And on the other hand, Matt Schnell is not very durable, and like he's now 34 years old at flyweight. We know that the weight cuts are tough for him. We know that again, he struggled to. We talk about Alex Perez that we're not sure gonna be fighting. Matt Schnell's also not fighting often. We know he's pulling out in fights a lot of times. And the durability is not good. Never been good. But now at 34, I can't imagine it's going to be better after a brutal knockout loss again. That was kind of a bad knockout because like he got hurt. The fight was done. And the referee just said to Nicolau, keep pounding, keep doing ground and pound. And then you can see Matt Schnell he went out. So that was, to me, that was kind of bad to see because the fight was over and just a little bit of unnecessary damage in this spot. And yeah, to me, Liam, like I think Erceg's gonna finish him. I don't know if you agree with me on that. He's probably gonna finish him, but then you look a little bit deeper into the lines. Okay, so I was hoping that the bookies, you know, that they're do a little bit of wiki capping when they're tipping the fights. And like Erceg has only 1 KO win in his career, and he has, I think, 2 decision win in the UFC. So no finish, only 1 KO loss. So I'm like, oh, maybe they gave me a crazy number on the KO prop for him. And then I'm looking into his fight, and I know for a fact that his striking has been improving. Like his performance against Dorovac, we can see that his striking looked better. He hurt him once or twice in that fight, and he looked good. He also hurt Costa on the feet. And to me, the thing, Liam, is I've seen a lot of money came in on the KO prop for Erceg. Yeah? So he was the KO prop opened at plus 350 for Erceg. It's now down at plus 215, and no action came in on the sub prop. So the sub is now plus 225 for Erceg. So to me, the things I'm looking into tapes, when he hurt people, what he does, well, why does he only have 1 KO win? It's because he's going for the club and sub. Like, he loves to do that. Even when he hurt people, he's trying to submit them. And then I'm looking into,
like my boy Tatsuro Taira.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Liam, I know you're high on him. Did he get a KO last time out? I think he did, right?
He did. I had the KO plus 700.
Yeah, you just talk about fights that you go back to the well, and the you with Tyra KO is like the perfect spot to talk about. Barcelos by sub last week. I know a lot of people were like so happy to cash that. So yeah, to go back to the point, a lot of action came in on the KO, which personally I favor the sub in this spot, and I wanted to play the KO just because of the number, you know, because I think he's gonna hurt Machinel at some point. But when he hurt Machinel, we know that Matt is not gonna quit, and I don't think he's gonna go out on a punch. So the thing is, he's probably gonna get hurt and get dropped. And then I've seen Erceg going for guillotine, going for club and sub, and I've just seen Weval kind of club and sub in. Like, that was not a club and sub, but you know, he almost got submitted, and then he put the guillotine on him, and he got him. Erceg's a slick grappler, dude. Like, he's a very good grappler. So I think people are gonna be maybe overplaying the KO now. The ITD is good, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet, because the ITD is minus 155. I don't like it too much. I'm gonna wait to see what they open the ITD on the other books for Erceg. Maybe we're lucky and we get like a minus 110. I would love that. If not, I think the sub prop can be sneaky for Erceg in that spot. I don't know if you guys are calling a KO or a sub, but at first I was liking the KO. But then thinking a little bit more into it, I think like even if you hurt him, he's gonna go for a sub, and you can submit him even if he doesn't hurt him. So I have to favor the sub for Erceg in this spot.
Yeah, man, I tend to agree with you. The thing I always look at first and foremost is the fighter's preference, right? And so I haven't always bet Tyra by KO. I have bet it more than once, right? And even times where it didn't cash. But I have bet Tyra by sub. I've bet Tyra inside the distance. I bet Tyra round props before. I've kind of like gone all over the board just because I'm always looking for different ways to get value on him, right? He's like a hard guy to bet on recently. I did have 2 10-unit bets on him early in his career at minus 200. That's why you got to get in when the going's good. Then he's minus 1,000 every fight. You got to start picking and choosing. And when I thought about the KO last time, it was because he had expressed interest in it, right? Like, he had basically said, like, I'm working on my striking. Like, nobody respects my striking, and it's good. And I was like, I agree, brother, because I've seen him many times on the regional scene drop somebody with a left hand and then take their back and submit them. So it was just a mere formality, right? He's very fast with this transition. So if he hurt you, it was too lightning quick. It was too easy. I'm on the back. Goodbye. Thanks for playing. And I think the same thing could be said for Erceg in this spot. More often than not, he's a guy that preferences the submission. So he's going to look for it. But it doesn't mean that, you know, you get a guy like Schnell who's not a complete zero on the ground, right? He does panic when he's put in submissions, but he will try and transition. He'll try and move. He could just get stuck in a bad spot. And guys, I'm not kidding. That Hector Sandoval knockout is comical. He does get hit with one punch that looks like it was like this, and he just goes to sleep. So that was back in the day. Last time out, you mentioned it. Mateus Nicolau, he does have power. He's kind of like underrated for being a power puncher, but he also has hit a bunch of chinny guys and knocked them over. That's like kind of his calling card as well. And I do think Nicolau, good counters, like good timing, but the way that he put him out there, he's not the heaviest standing guy at flyweight. He's a guy that has his own durability issues. So that's not the kind of fight that you want to be losing at this point in your career. It was a winnable fight for Schnell, I thought, and he got smoked. So I think Nicolau, good fighter, but also a guy that has his own durability issues, his own, susceptibilities, and he was able to kind of audit him in that fight. So not a great look, I think. And for Astro Boy, they kind of could use some more stars out of this region, right? Are you guys noticing a pattern, which is that all these guys that are like the elder statesmen from Australia are losing all their fights? They might need this new crop, a JDM, a Astro Boy, to kind of take the reins a little bit here for the teams, for the gyms, and also for, those regions. So very interesting stuff. JB, what do you got here, brother?
Yeah, that's how my dude Dravey does his film, because this is what we're talking about with Erceg. He goes for the club and sub all the way back to his first fight against let's see, it was not Ryan Hollis. Pardon me. Let's go here. Steven Erceg. In his first fight, he got a guillotine against Ryan Robertson, and it was clean technique, wraps it up, gets the job done. So all the way back in 2016 in this guy's first fight, is he going for these types of submissions that Royval's catching him with. He's been front choked by Tim Elliott, I believe. This guy gets his neck wrapped up like there's no tomorrow. I believe in Erceg's jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he could get the knockout here. But even when this guy gets the knockout, like you said, he goes to the ground. He finishes with the submission, and that's his preference. So I had to take a stab. As soon as I saw it hit the plus 225 number, I got in on Erceg because I believe he gets the job done. I sense durability issues from Matt Schnell, but I think he hurts him and wraps up the sub. I love the range management from Erceg on the feet. I think he finds his counters well as well. Matt might look to initiate the grappling, but I think he's going to wind up in a bad situation here. I believe in the jiu-jitsu of Erceg here over a 34-year-old Matt Schnell, who I really like. This guy's been in the game for a while. Back since the MTV days, Caged. That's where he gets his nickname from, Matt Danger Schnell. But I like this guy, but I think I got to go against him here. I know I'm going all favorites besides Bigi Boy, but I just think it's another smoke spot, man. He's going to get it done inside the distance, and I think it's a sub.
Yeah, and the public are kind of too low on Matt Schnell's chin. You can see that because if you look, the books open Erceg KO plus 350, and they opened the sub for Erceg at plus 205, and now it's Erceg sub plus 225 and Erceg KO plus 215. So I feel like there's some sharp action came in at plus 350. I think that was a good bet. But under plus 350, I don't think you get much value because even if you hurt him, I'm not confident that he's going to go for it. And I don't think he's going to KO him out cold. So, yeah, man, I'm probably going to be on this with you, JB. I'm kind of waiting because maybe some more money came in on the KO prop. And maybe I can get plus 250 on another book. Or maybe I'm going to play ITD and the sub prop to cover myself. I'm not sure yet. But, yeah, definitely I have my interest on this one.
Dude. I feel like a lot of it just has to do with the style of the fighters, what they're, like Liam said, what their preference is, who the ref is. Like, we're taking an educated guess here at the end of the day. There's a lot of large favorites on this card. And I think trying to guess the props is going to be the way, and you got to be careful. But it could happen because this could go to decision. As bad as Matt Schnell's chin is, we saw him go to decision with Bontarine, who's got some power himself. So we've seen.
Ask me if I lost money on the fight not to go the distance there, but
exactly.
I want to just shout out Evan Kroll here. He says, you're going ham on your T-City banger. What I miss. Hope you and Kamish are crushing in 2024. Kamish, at Kamish Film Room on Twitter, my boy. Go check out his stuff right now. Baseball season is in full swing for him, and his analytics are second to none. So go check out his stuff. Appreciate that shout, Evan. But just in terms of the T-City banger, I don't think I'm going any harder than I normally do when I win a bet. If I lose a bet, I'll tell you. If I win a bet, I'll tell you. I try and own the wins, own the losses. Betting's supposed to be fun, right? I'm not going to be a tireless grind. I'm not going to do all this shit to then be like, yeah, I got the CLV. No, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have a great time. So when I win my bets, I'm going to have fun. And if you enjoy that, I'm glad. If you don't, no problem. Like, we'll still have these high-level conversations on the show, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always have to be serious, right? I try not to take myself too serious. I was having a laugh with some buddies. So that was the long and short of it there. And a couple of people hating, I was just letting them know. So God bless.
You have to explain yourself, man. That's crazy.
Hey, yeah, I'll just let people know, man, because I appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch the show. I appreciate everybody that engages, on social media and here. It means the world. I appreciate that everybody's here to support, but also I'm not going to change who I am. I like it a certain way, right? I'll own the wins and the losses. So here every week, ass in the jackpot. That's the way I roll. And when I get it right and everybody's telling me in my comment section I'm going to be wrong and everybody's getting after me saying, oh, no, this is a stupid bet. And I was right both times. So whether people like the process or not, you think I'm an idiot or not, you like the bet or not, I found a way to the money both times. That's what I'm proud of. So there you go. That's what I'm trying to do each and every time. And I'm trying to help you guys find the money too. Next up, I just want to touch on this briefly. This is an unconfirmed rumor, but somebody did ask about it in the chat. Is Rosas fighting Saturday? I've heard mixed accounts of this. Ricky Turcios basically said not agreed to. The UFC announced it anyway. That's their style. So I think that this is a fight where I don't know if we're going to get any action here, boys, but we did have some breakdowns done on this last week. These guys were supposed to fight already. Kind of a really weird situation where they pulled the fight a couple minutes before it's supposed to start. Very surprising. And they said that they knew all day. I mean, I think that probably would have been reflected in the betting line if that had been known all day. That's a personal opinion. But how do you feel about this one, my brother? Very weird circumstance.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky fight, Liam, because to me, first time I passed on the fight, and now I have a bet on it. Maybe there's not gonna be any bet because I have a feeling this fight's probably not gonna happen. And yeah, I think Narkov just made a good point. It's probably not gonna happen, but to me, what was kind of interesting is what they said is if the fight happened, it's gonna be a catch weight, and B, the other important information. We all talk about the elevation last week, right? Now it's not at elevation. I think this favor Rosas more because his cardio is not great, and the fact that he's not going to have to cut weight again is going to affect he's going to make his cardio look a little bit better, in my opinion. So with that being said, to me, the way I was looking into this fight is Rosa has sub-1 upside in this fight. But at the same time, I respect Turcios' scrambles. I think he has very good scrambles, and he's tough to deal with because like he's tricky to fight. He's unorthodox on the feet, and he has good volume. He's tough. He has good sub defense. So I'm not like super confident that Rosa is going to submit him in the first round. And if he doesn't submit him in the first round, maybe he can have a body lock and control around after that. But I don't think his finishing upside is as high after the first round. And then I think Turcios has finishing upside, especially in the third round if Rosa is tired. But again, how do I really cap that? Is that 50% imply? I don't really think so. And the last time at elevation with the weight cut, everything, the over 2.5 closed at like minus 140 to minus 150. And now when they open it back was minus 150. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'm missing something because why the over 2.5 at sea level is not like is a lower odds than the one at elevation. So I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And then I feel like people are putting a little bit too much stock into Rosas being sick. Maybe if he competes, he's not going to be 100%. Who knows, right? But then some money came in on the over back, so it's now around minus 140. I still think it's a good bet. I think it's going to go the distance personally. Could someone finish? Yeah, but again, like I said, I gave Turcios round 3 upside, but with the over 2.5, I cover half of it, and then I gave Rosas sub-1 upside. But like I said, I respect Turcios' scrambles, but I don't have like the best read on the fight of who's gonna win because I feel like it's a little bit tricky. But I kind of think that it's gonna go over 2.5 at like probably 65-70% clip. So I feel like the over 2.5 is a good bet there.
Fair play, my man. Yeah, I would be really surprised if Turcios finished this fight in the first round. Right. I think Raul has basically all the very early finishing upside. And I also think they just fight a much different style, right? Like Raul typically comes out like a bat out of hell, ready to attack you, get on top of you, put a beating on you. And last time out with Terrence Mitchell, I kind of thought that he was going to go out there and easily submit him, right? Like I just thought UFC gave him a get right spot and he was aggressive, right? He came out there and just beat that guy to a pulp and obviously way overmatched opposition, but fighter preference. What were we just talking about, right? He went out there with a 100% I'm going to knock this guy out message in his head, right? Like he was not thinking, oh, he's hurt. Let me grab he was like, I'm going to punch this guy until the referee pulls me off. And the one thing I'll say about Ricky that I don't like is I think he does not react well to power. I think Mana Martinez is like the prime example of that. Great left hook. Just put him down very early in the fight, kill shot. And obviously, Mana's a different striker than Raul Rosas, right? He's a lot more technical. It's a clean left hook. That's what he puts out there. But when I look at the fight with Amin Zahabi, right, somebody we're going to discuss later on the card as well, Amin disciplined him, I thought, with the power early in that fight, right? He hit him with a couple counters, and then you never saw Turcios get close enough to land a punch again. You know, he was like, I'm gonna throw my combinations from way out here and just wait until this one's over. And I kind of felt that way about the fight. It wasn't a great fight. I didn't think Amin necessarily gave him any openings, right? He didn't go pursue the fight. He was like, all right, man, you don't want to throw shots that land on me? I'll just take a couple shots per round and just win this fight pretty easy. And I thought that was sound strategy, if not the most visually appealing fight we've ever seen, right? But I think that in this spot, we will see a guy in Turcios who likes to come on strong late, against a guy who doesn't like if fights get extended, right? It's not to say he can't win those fights. It's just he wants to go out there and get the early finish. He wants to go out there and put a stamp on it. And I think that the thought of going out there and looking to put a stamp on it in round one at elevation, not a good feeling, right? You're like, man, if this goes sideways, like I am going to be stuck out there for 10 minutes feeling like death against a guy who just wants to be out there just throwing. That's not a great feeling. I think it's going to be a lot less nerve-wracking to just fight in Vegas. I think that's going to be a lot more comfortable. I think that could be a better situation, a lot less pressure, right? We were talking about fighting in front of 20,000 people, a lot of energy, a lot of nerves, a lot of responsibility. Now it's like, hey, man, sparring match with Ricky Turcios. Like if these guys were just to go fight in the gym, I think Raul would probably sub him in the gym. That's kind of just the way I see it. So it's a fight where I could obviously see the path for Ricky, but I think it was put together to get Raul a win. And I think that he could do it via multiple methods. So that's the way that I see this one going. JB, what are your thoughts, my brother?
Yeah, I like how you explained that, man, because if you got knocked out by Manny Martinez in the first round, who's to say you can't get clipped by Raul Rosas? The ground and pound is always live as well. I was originally going to take a stab at Turcios round 3 for all the reasons that Dravi said. Elevation, the death gas for Rosas. I've seen it before. I'm not a believer in some of his jiu-jitsu techniques. I've seen this guy lose local BJJ matches versus people. Turcios, though, at the end of the day, I just don't think he has good takedown defense. I don't think his ground game is that efficient for MMA. He's very he's kind of like Tony. He's willing to play off his back. He'll just throw elbows, stuff like that, throw up submissions, get his guard passed. I think this is a Rosas spot all the way, if this fight even happens. And that's what I got first look.
I love it, brother. And I'm not saying that this is like an easy call or something, right? Like I do believe that Ricky, goes out there and he wants to compete, right? Like some guys don't want to fight. They don't want to fight, especially if it's going to be a ruckus, if it's going to get dangerous, if it's going to get dirty. They like to be bullies. They like to go beat people up, like find a way to make a living. But I do think of a guy like Ricky as a guy who's tough. He's willing to stay in there if the going gets tough. But I also just think he's kind of noodly and a little bit like complacent, right? Like why did we like Corey Sandhagen on his ride? He's just like a nice guy. He's like a fun-loving guy. But then he fights Aljo, and Aljo just starts off the gate like, what's up, brother? And he just instantly submits him, right? I think that's a fight where intensity matters, right? Intensity, that's what it takes to become a champion. It's been plastered on my wall since I was 12 years old, and I see it in other people, and I see when people don't have it. Ricky's not a very intense guy. He's kind of a little bit loosey-goosey. He's there to have fun. He's there to have a good time. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's going to keep you loose. It's not going to be as nerve-wracking, right? So nervous energy, tension is going to make you tired, but it's also going to make you explosive. It's also going to make you hurt people. It's also going to make you take people down. So there's kind of these trade-offs, right? And like being loosey-goosey means that you might just get flummoxed in the first round. You might get overwhelmed. You might get put in really bad positions before you're even ready to get off the starting block. And for me, that's the thing I'd want to see from Ricky. I'd want to bet it like right before the fight starts and see if this guy's got some fire in his eyes. He's ready to go out there and scrap. Okay. But if the guy is out there like cold and like, I'm a little disappointed I didn't fight last week. I can't believe they're making me fight again. Bro, I'm out. Like, I think that guy's going to get smoked then in the first round in all likelihood. So those are the things I'm looking at here. But I think the UFC, if anything was going to go amiss last week for Raul, I think that's why they stopped the fight. So I think they were like, no, we'll do it again. We'll figure it out down the road. And I think they're trying to protect their investment there. Next up, we've got Eric Anders, your boy, or my boy, depending on who you ask, taking on Jamie Pickett. The reason I say he's my boy, 5-0 betting on Eric Anders' fight so far in the UFC. Love this guy. from a betting standpoint. I've had a lot of opportunities to make money throughout his career, I felt. Done pretty well with my analytical work on his fights as well. Thought there was an argument he could have won that fight against Marc-Andre Barrios, to tell you the truth. I thought he maybe got a little bit jobbed out in that fight. Very close, right? Left it within the margins. That's the Eric Anders story. So at the minus, 3XX price tag, do I feel super bullish on it? No, I could see the way he goes out there and blows a fight like this by just not being super active. But honestly, if he doesn't win this fight, he should just be cut from the UFC, because Jamie Pickett is not supposed to be there. He's a guy who's been hanging around to be enhancement talent, in my humble opinion. He trains with guys that are undersized, guys that are a little bit past their prime. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not going to point out those people. You guys can look for yourself and kind of make your own deductions. But I just haven't liked the training environment I've seen from Pickett overall. And compare it to the other side here. I think that Eric Anders is a guy that's put in a lot of great work. He's went and gotten training in with the Renzo Gracie Philly guys. He's been putting in these grappling matches at CFFC in these places to try and improve his game. And I do think we've always seen good positional grappling from Eric Anders. He's not a guy that's easy to out-grapple, right? The guys that have done it, what was that? Andre Muniz, fall over armbar. I saw that one coming, right? But I think that's the only guy that I can recall who ever submitted Eric Anders. Let me just double check that and make sure I'm not speaking out my arse. Yeah, that is true. So I think that in this fight, Eric Anders should be able to beat a guy like Jamie Pickett, honestly, however he wants. I think if he wants to, he can go out there and knock this guy out. I think he will have the confidence to walk him down, hit him with big punches, and put him away. And I think conversely, if this fight goes to the ground, I do actually favor Eric Anders to get to the better positions, to be stronger, to be more physical. Former football player. I know the former football player tag is not always great, right? I've talked about how it can get people knocked out. Shout out to Narco Cop says, what's more impressive about Anders' fight versus MAB? He broke his foot 3 weeks before and fought with a broken foot. Didn't know that, but this guy is tough as nails. That's the other thing about Anders is I don't think he's going to give up on me. If the going gets slightly tough, I think he's going to fight through. I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to dominate Jamie Pickett, and I think he's going to pink slip the guy. So give me Eric Anders inside the distance here. How about you, brother?
Yeah, I don't have a strong read about this fight, but I'll be kind of surprised if he loses, he should not be losing to Jamie Pickett. But I can't really get myself to play minus 400 in a parlay with him. Just like you said, sometimes when you go the distance, you kind of fight close a little bit too much at time. But the dude is strong. The dude is big, and he's tough. He's gonna. I don't think he's gonna get finished here. And yeah, to me, it's why is he minus 400 and the ITD is plus 145? I know he has gotten a lot of decision in his career, but I think the ITD for Anders could be a good look because Pickett, has been sub 4 times and he has been KO 2 times. And then if you look into Anders' resume, he has gone to a lot of decision in his career, but against who? Oh yeah, did you guys know that he I didn't know that. I saw it yesterday. So he beat the shit out of Kyle Dawkins, right? We all remember that. And then they rematch in grappling, and he beat him again. I didn't even know that. I saw this yesterday.
I did know that. I watched that grappling match live, and that's where I was saying Anders is solid positionally. Kyle Dawkins should have had the advantage there in terms of length of time on the mat and things like that, and he just didn't.
Yeah, Dawkins was a huge favorite there in that spot. Anders was a plus 380 dog in that match, the grappling match.
Oh,
I also had Anders on the money line and by KO when they fought in the UFC.
Wow, it's a good bet. To be honest, that performance was impressive to me. But yeah, we're talking about numbers, right? So I'm gonna try to make it quick. I don't think Jamie Pickett is UFC caliber. I don't think he's good, to be honest. And I think that Anders should dominate. And I'll be surprised if he lose. So at this price tag, if he cover the price tag, you kind of need to finish to be honest. And it's not like the ITD is minus 110, it's plus 145. I think it's pretty good. I just saw in the chat, I think Narco just pointed out that he got his black belt, Anders. That's interesting because he has been doing a lot of grapplings recently. And he only has 1 sub in his career. Then the books are kind of into it, right? Anders by sub is only plus 400. Oh, it opened at
plus 800, right?
Shit. Yeah, I just saw.
And then it
plus 800. Right. Okay, so yeah, but plus 400 now. Yeah, I kind of love the ITD a little bit more. I don't really want to pick away because it should probably knock out if he finish, but then I can see a sub for sure. I I really don't rate Pickett at all as a fighter, but especially his ground game, I think is pretty terrible. He's big, he's strong. I don't think he's that strong, but he's big for the division. So yeah, and there's ITD for me. I'm gonna be looking into that because like the under 2.5 is almost the same number as the ITD for Anders. Not a big difference. It's plus 115 for the under 2.5, but I'd rather be on the Anders ITD plus 145 because man, if Pickett's finish Anders, I'll be kind of surprised. So I mean, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I'd be stunned. I'd be stunned, honestly. And I don't say that very often, but there you go. JP, what do you think?
Yeah, not only the Henzo Philly guys, he's been out with B team with Nick Rodriguez as well, training with him. And for a guy who has one career submission attempt in the UFC, we're getting plus 400 on the sub. That should kind of just tell you all you need to know here. Eric Anders may just get his career first sub in the UFC. It's very possible, like Narcos said, he's just got his black belt. Yeah, but I think he finishes him anywhere he wants here. On the feet, on the ground. This is a setup spot for Anders. 4 losses in a row. Who did he beat? Joseph Holmes. I don't even know the other guy he beat. So there we go. That's my answer on this fight. I'm taking another sub. Going sub. The sub masters are going with the subs. I got to go Eric Anders sub here. I like the ITD look as well. I think that's very sharp because the knockout's always there. This guy Pickett's going to quit. But I think Anders, he does have some power. End of the day, he will hit you.
Dude,
with
he
the
has
ground
real
and pound
power in
exactly.
his legs and in his hands, for sure.
And, he'll go for the ground and pound as well. We've seen it against Dawkins, but something tells me in my gut that this guy wants his first career sub with all the grappling training he's done. Not first career sub, right. I know you're going to correct me. First career UFC sub. He does have a rear naked choke pre-UFC. I think that's how he gets him done here, actually, either with an arm triangle or a rear naked choke, or maybe we see the old Brian Ortega wrap it up. So let's see what happens here. I like the sub look here again.
I absolutely love it. So I'm going to now kick it to the next fight here, brother, where we've got Javid Basharat taking on Ayman Zahabi. So this is a fun fight, right? 2 guys at 135 that have some momentum, a couple wins in a row on their resume. But for Basharat, right, last time out, punted my guy Victor Henry straight in the sack, then claimed victory on Twitter. What a guy. So I do think, for me, that was just a little bit classless. It doesn't make me want to, get behind you next time out and root for you or anything. But I think that he's obviously a very talented fighter. He's obviously very skilled, right? Trains with a lot of the right people out in Vegas. I've talked about that conglomerate of skill in the 135-pound division. But I don't think that he's got a pushover opponent here in Ayman Zahabi. He's got a great camp, right? Trains with great people at TriStar. But also he brought in individuals. I listened to his interview to try and really put together a great game plan here. So I do think Zahabi is a fun guy in terms of his style. Like if you like actual fighting, if you like technical fighting, then Zahabi is a fun guy to watch because he is not a guy that's going to put on the most entertaining fight, but he uses every skill that he has the best possible, I feel, because he's a kind of limited guy athletically. He's not the most athletic guy you've ever seen in the UFC, but he finds ways to win fights. And last time, right, Ricky threw all that volume. And what did it accomplish? Nothing, because it was from too far out. He just dictated the range. He drew a line in the sand and said, you're not going to cross this. And Ricky said, you're right. So I do think that that's the kind of thing that he does well at times is pick his shots, counter people, make them second guess where they're going with their offense, and kind of slows down the pace of a fight. So is he the most spectator-friendly guy in the world? No. But I also think that the UFC could have given a lot of easier fights to, the Basharat, brother here. And instead they gave him what I think is a winnable, but ultimately a tougher fight than the odds imply, honestly. How do you feel about this one, brother, as I step out for 1 second?
Yeah, Basharat's minus 700 now, so I don't think there's much we can do for this one. And yeah, I was more looking into do I think he find a finish? And it's kind of hard to say because I think Zahabi is pretty durable. And on the ground, like Basharat ground game is very good, but he's not really hunting submissions. And Zahabi is like he can get taken down, but I love his get up game. I love his scrambles, and what he's doing on the ground. He's also at the high level camp with the we know his brother is the trainer of GSP, so the guy know what he's doing for sure. I think he has a good fight IQ. He's getting older now. I don't think, like we always talk about what the UFC want. I don't think they want Zahabi, who's 36 now, to be their undefeated Basharat. So I think that I'll be kind of surprised if he's the one to beat him. 36 years old. And yeah, I'm very high on the Basharat's brother. Like, I think they have both very good fight IQ. They're very tough. They have a big will to win. A very, very good cardio. And to me, in this spot, if Basharat find a finish, I think it's more going to be to accumulation of damage on the feet. It's like going to be a TKO or something, and it's probably going to be late in the fight. But I'm not polished about KO sub if he does finish. I kind of love the round 2, round 3 a little bit better. But again, he has not really shown to be a finisher in the UFC. And I don't think the market gave him finishing upside, really. They don't respect his finishing skills, but the dude's a good finisher. Like, I love the way he goes to the body. I love the way he goes in and out on the feet. He's pretty good footwork. And Zahabi is good, but like, he's low volume and he has decent power. But like, Basharat get cracked at time, but I don't really see a scenario where Zahabi knock him out. I don't think it's likely. So then his path to victory is to win a close decision, which he doesn't show much volume. It's kind of hard for me to see. So Basharat's going to be landing way more volume than him. I think he has all the wrestling, all the grappling upside in this fight. And I think he also has most of the finishing upside for sure, and the better cardio. So I think he's a justified big favorite. I agree with the market being high on him. I understand that. And I think at the earlier price, -4, -500, he was a good parlay piece. But now at -700, you don't really get much. So I think you got to go look into the props. And I'm going to ask you guys a question at the same time. Which brother do you think is the better and have the better ceiling in the UFC? Because my opinion changed. I'm going to tell you after, but my opinion changed recently.
I think Farid is much better than Javid, personally. And I think that he has a more sustainable game. The reason I say that is because I think that he is better at taking fights to the ground and dominating once he gets it there. And I think the opposite is true of Javid. I don't think he's bad on the ground, but I think he's had some exploitable opponents on the mat at times in his career. And I think he's a little too willing to play on the feet. He does a little bit of that Conor McGregor hands down, head movement type of deal. And I do think he's been fighting a quality of opposition that hasn't really challenged him in those positions yet. And I would be a little bit surprised if Amin is not a tougher challenge there. When I look at this, I know that Canadian males in the UFC not been doing very good, right? But we're not in Canada. And I do think Zahabi is a bit of an interesting case. Like, you look at Amin, and I honestly believe that when he came into the UFC, he was very inexperienced. He lacked the confidence, and he got hurt badly in an early fight. He got knocked out. And if you listen to his interviews, he'll tell you, like, I wasn't confident. I was kind of scared to go in there for some of these fights. Like, I had been knocked out. I didn't have as much experience as a lot of guys I was fighting. Now he has as many fights in the UFC as he does, like, professionally. So the guy has been going out there fighting quality opposition. And he's not the most active guy you've ever seen. So he can present a little bit of a different product each time out. I don't think anybody was like super bullish on him knocking out Erici Lang. I know I didn't see that coming. I thought he was, going to be in a little bit of trouble there. I was like, man, Erici Lang, like, he's a guy that's probably going to come forward, try and throw some big shots at him, like put him in some danger. And instead, he found the counter shot and put him down badly early in that fight. So I do think this is obviously a different case, right? Basharat is a UFC commodity. They like these guys, but I believe that his brother is the better of the two. And I do think that after the Victor Henry showing last time out, it was kind of a fumbled opportunity, right? I know it's a foul. I know it's like an incidental contact. No worries there. But I think that when I look at Zahabi, I don't see a pushover. I don't see a guy who's, phoning it in. I don't see a guy who's showing up not to fight and win. So I just don't think that Basharat has shown me he can blow these guys that are higher level out of the water. So I think it's probably going to be a close decision more often than not here. And I just don't think Zahabi's a fish out of water. JB, how do you feel, brother? Am I crazy?
I think Javid, is going to get him and have an advantage on the ground here. And you said it, Dravey. This guy has good get-ups. He has good stand-ups. But I think in that process of him scrambling back to his feet, he can give up positions and submissions. This guy, Javid Basharat, pre-UFC, has a ton of chokes. And you could see it even in the way he fights. He doesn't give up position, though. He floats his opponents really well. Zahabi has a little bit of a jiu-jitsu type game. We really haven't seen him get wrestled in the UFC. Ramos had his back before knocking him out. You know, you see the last name Zahabi, you think there's no way this guy gets subbed. But he's not his brother. He does come from a good camp. I just think Javid has top pressure and has a good sequence of the submissions that he chooses from. I actually could see him locking up a Darce here. This guy's trying to get back to his feet. He finds the front headlock choke. I love these Dewey Cooper guys as well. The Basharat brothers, high IQ. I think for Javid's going to take this fight where he thinks it's best. I think he's going to look to get this to the ground from what I know. And I think that's his best path, especially early. You know, we've seen Zahabi knock guys out. He has power. I think Javid knows that. And I think eventually he finds a sub on the ground. I know people are going to call me crazy. I'm going every sub, but I promise I'm pretty sure this is the last one. I just love this guy's front headlock series. He's wrapped up the guillotine in his contender fight as well. He's always looking for the sub, but he's not going to give up the position for it. I think Amin is going to rush to get back to his feet rather than sit on the ground. You know, Zahabi's a smart guy as well. He's not going to let the rounds just pass with Javid on top. You know, we've seen guys willing to play flat on their back like Tony Gravely against Javid, not really look to get back to the feet. So it didn't really present any opportunities for Javid to wrap up these subs. But I think if you go back a little bit deeper and you really look into his skill set, he's got threats of the submission, and people are going to, I think, overrate Zahabi. So I got in at a little plus 550. The line moved a bit now. But I think that's a good finish method, and I think a lot of people are going to be on the decision here. I think he's outgunned by Javid. Yeah, the line might be a little bit wide on the money line, but I think Javid is the rightful winner in this spot, and I think he could find a finish, especially when it hits the mat.
Yeah, I think you're underestimating Ayman Zahabi, honestly, on the mat. So I could be wrong, right? Like, that's why we have these fights. That's why we have the conversations too. But honestly, I just think that if you've got Firas Zahabi in your corner, if you're training with Ryan Hall and Ton Lee, and this guy's not submitting the fucking Menteus Mendonkas, the Tony Gravleys of the division, honestly, I would be surprised if he submitted him in this fight. Now, if he was to, clip him or like outlast him, tire him out, round 3, I think is more plausible than just like a sub, broadly speaking. Like, I think any method in round 3, if Zahabi was to tire out, end up in some bad positions, and then be desperate, right? Like, I have to get back up. I'm out of time, something like that. But, shout out to Narco. He says, surprised you guys haven't mentioned the calf kicks. He's heavy on his lead leg, gets his leg chewed up in many fights. I think that is a interesting note. When I look at this fight, man, I just don't believe he does make a good point. Being stationary against Basharat will be bad for him. Fair enough, but I don't know that we know exactly what to expect from Zahabi in this fight. I do think that he's kind of picked his game plan against his opponents. And I will just say, like, sometimes I read too much into interviews, but last week I loved the interviews from Brian Ortega. I hated every interview from Yair Rodriguez. It was part of my handicap. And the reason being, one guy was dismissing his opponent and basically saying, I'm fighting the champ. I'm talking about Ilya, this, that, and the other. And then when you look at what was Brian saying, he was saying, Ilya, great fighter. Volk deserves more respect. Like, my man was out there just like calling it the way it is. That's what you're supposed to do, right? And I just think last time out, he had an opportunity. Call it the way it is. Hey, man, I kicked Victor in the balls. My bad, bro. Hope your swollen nuts go down and we can do it again sometime. But instead, he's like, I claim victory. You're a quitter. You're a coward. I was like, bro, what a horrible look. And I think that's why he's getting an anonymous hard challenge in this fight. And that's my personal opinion. And I could be dead wrong, right? But they're putting him in Vegas. He's a popular guy. He's a well-known guy. He's got a big social media account. He's got a lot of the things I would look for. But he's also in a competitive division where both of these guys, I think, are ranked in the top like 25 in the UFC's bantamweight division right now. So that's the case. You've got two guys that are both very solid fighters. Bantamweight is a good weight class. So, yeah, Javid's a good fighter. Is he minus 600 against other top 25 guys? I haven't seen that. I haven't seen one fight where he looked like that. To your point again before about has this guy covered with Mokaev? Is this guy covering these huge prices? I mean, against Oran Kolan maybe, but in some of these other fights, like they play out as fairly close decisions where he wins 29-28 across the board, 30-27 across the board in close rounds. It's like, I just don't see him going out there and bludgeoning these guys and like putting a stamp on it. Tony Gravely is an eminently finishable opponent in the UFC level. Let's just call it the way it is. So I think that for Ayman, not the greatest finisher either, but they might just kind of have a staring match. And if they do, I just think anything's possible on the cards. We've seen that again. I mean, Mendonca and Aguilar, I bet Aguilar. I thought he clearly lost the fight. I'll take the money. So we'll do it. But it's like that was just a spot where we've seen it on numerous occasions. If they're going to grapple, if it's going to be somewhat competitive, it's going to be close. Maybe there's not a ton of volume exchanged. That could just lead to a very close decision. So, yeah, I kind of like Aiming to pull off the upset here. I haven't decided I'm going to pull the trigger there, but I bet this guy in the past, right? Ricky Turcios was like minus 200 against him, and then he absolutely dominated that fight. I felt it was a weird fight. It was not a fight where I was like, oh my God, like they can't rob me. But I just felt in terms of who set the tone of that fight, I just thought Zahabi looked like the guy who won the fight. I thought he looked like the guy who deserved the nod there. And in this fight, I think it's going to be harder out for him for sure, but I still think it's a winnable fight for both guys. So great scrap.
What do you think, Liam, about Zahabi plus 2.5? It's plus 275.
I'm sorry, say again.
Zahabi plus 3.5 on Bet Online.
Oh, interesting.
It's
I never play those.
Yeah,
those
I don't do
markets.
them often either. Yeah, just a big number.
You said plus 285 for the plus
275, but he's now
275. Okay.
Yeah, he's plus 500 now, so it's kind of normal we get a big number. But I think this fight go to the decision more often than not, and we know that Basharat can give up a round in fights at time. So I feel like it's maybe a good angle, but I'm not too polished about it. But since you love that side, maybe plus 275, he needs to win a round and not get finished.
I would say love is a strong word, right? Like last time out against Turcios, I parted ways with 4 units between plus 170 and plus 200 because I was willing to be that wrong. I was like, this guy, I just can't see Turcios covering that price in the UFC. Then in this spot, like, it's not like I think Basharat sucks, but just like, again, I just don't think Zahabi's a guy that against most opponents, plus 500 makes sense. He's kind of just an awkward guy to fight. So good matchmaking, I think, by the UFC. Interesting matchmaking. And, they could have put Basharat in a premier position. They could have put him high up on the card. This is kind of a garbage throwaway card. Am I wrong? Why is he 3-4 fights deep into the card? Maybe it's because of that nut kick and being an asshole. Just something to think about. But in any case, we can move to the next fight here where we've got Loic Radzhabov taking on, I got to pull up his name here because I don't want to misspeak, Abdul Karim Al-Saadi. It's abbreviated on Tapology, and I couldn't remember his first name. But Al-Saadi is a guy that has a sketchy chin, I feel, but his skills seem to be pretty decent. I think he trains out of Fortis MMA. We'll kick this one over to Dravey first. How do you feel, brother?
Which one, Liam, you said? Excuse me? Saadi?
Yeah, this is the Abdul Karim Al-Saadi fight against Loic Radzhabov.
I wanted to make you repeat just to make sure. Liam, to me, that's one of my most interesting fight, betting-wise, and just the matchup in general, because I've seen a lot of people on different that have different takes on this one, and it's also like one of the closest line on the fight, so on the card. So that's that. We don't have a minus 500-ish on this one. So I did a lot of research for this one yesterday. Actually, I went very deep. Watch Radzhabov PFL fights. There's a lot of film on him on YouTube. He has gone 25 minutes a couple of times. A lot of decisions, so you can watch a lot of cage time. In his last fight, he got finished by like because of the leg kicks. That was one of the most important thing. But we also need to remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think Rebeki's a southpaw, right?
I believe his stances, but I think he's a primary southpaw. I don't quote me on that, but I believe that from the top of my head.
I think he is, because I remember he had no answer for the leg kicks. Yeah, he's a southpaw. Okay, so yeah, he had no answer for the leg kicks in that fight. So that's one of the things I'm watching into his fights, like even in PFLs, and he still have the same problem. So like when people have very good leg kicks, that affect him a lot. So he doesn't really check them well. So that's the first thing. And then his cardio is not very good either, but he's kind of a dog. Like he fight through his cardio. Like in PFL, in some of the fights I've watched, they do this dead on his feet. Like he's tired as shit, and he still didn't quit. Like he still find a way to make it to the belt. So that was kind of good to know, because when someone is tired and ready to quit at time, I'm like, I want to see how he does. And I don't rate his cardio. Like every fight after like 8 minutes, he slowed down a lot. So that's the first thing. But then, I mean, the dude is very aggressive. He has power and he has good wrestling. And then I also wanted to look into, because if people only run back the Sawadi fight on Contender, he looks to be a striker, but the dude's had a good wrestling, good grappling. That's what he's shown in the regional for the most part. So I want to see who's going to win the wrestling, the grappling exchanges on this one. And I think it's kind of hard to know, because I didn't see much tape on Sawadi takedown defense and ground game defensively, but I did see a lot from Radzhabov. So Radzhabov has decent takedown defense. I think he can get taken down, but to me, his get up game is very good, and he's hard to control. So that's that, and he's going to be the bigger fighter in this spot. So I'm not sure who's going to be shooting the takedowns, but I think Radzhabov is more likely to be shooting than Sawadi. And also, one thing to mention, would I think it's super important. Radzhabov doesn't do well on the back foot. He needs to be the one pressuring fights in order to have success in the most part. And then I'm looking into Sawadi, and he's almost always playing off the back foot, using his footwork, his movements, and he looked phenomenal in his last fight. But he's not really pressuring guys. So I think that he's going to allow Radzhabov to have the fights that he won, which means Radzhabov is going to be the one pressuring, which is good for his wrestling, because if he's the one shooting takedown, it's going to be better for him if he's the one putting the pressure, and B, to his style, because I don't think he's good of the back foot at all, to be honest. And then I think Sawadi, on the other end, I think he has very good cardio. Like, I've seen a guy go 5 rounds. His cardio is very, very good. Like, I think Radzhabov have like 8 minutes of cardio, but I'm not too sure that Sawadi is going to finish him if he's super tired. So then I'm looking into the leg kicks from Sawadi. So he has decent leg kicks, but he doesn't have like the same pop of Rebeski in his leg kicks. Like, Rebeski tried to kill him, and he was pressuring him. So I don't think the leg kick is going to be as effective in this one, personally, for Sawadi, but he still have this in his back pocket. I think they can both land takedown in that fight. And I rate Sawadi ground game. I think it's pretty slick, very good ground and pound. And I know that he didn't beat like good competition on the original, and he doesn't have a lot of finishes. But then if you look a little bit deeper, the guy that he's not finishing are very durable. Like Michael Murphy, he's 8-8, but the dude is stupid tough. And the other dude was let me check just to make sure he didn't finish another one. I think it was
Nick Compton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So another stupid durable guy. So he didn't finish them. But then I love the way he was mixing the wrestling. I love his footwork. And I think his striking has improved a lot since he moved to Fortis MMA. So, yeah, I love his performance on the Contender, because Hardwick's a good striker, dude. Hardwick is dangerous, and he's very tricky to fight. And the way he danced on the outside and used his footwork, he kind of hurt Hardwick at some point in that fight. So that was very good. But then I'm looking into Radzhabov. I think he can maybe land takedowns, which gonna be a little bit different than Hardwick, who's not shooting takedowns. That's the first thing. And then he's gonna be pressuring. But I think when he pressure, he's gonna be more willing than Hardwick. Hardwick was a little bit too hesitant because he didn't find his timing at the beginning of the fight. And also, I mean, Radzhabov is gonna be way bigger than him. So that's the thing. And then I'm looking into Sawadi. When he loses, he's getting KO. But then if you look a little bit deeper, like one of them was way back when he was like 20 years old. One other was a knee, and another one was like a spinning elbow. So I'm like, is the dude really chinny, or is just getting caught? So I don't think his chin is as bad as what people think, to be fair. But still, recently in his last fight before a Contender, he's still getting rocked a little bit. Like, nothing too crazy, but he's getting rocked against lower level guys. When he's getting pressure, he doesn't really like that. But again, it looked better in his last fight. So yeah, then again, if you look on the line, he was a big dog on Contender, and now he's the favorite making his UFC debut against Radzhabov. And Radzhabov fought way better competition. He's the bigger fighter, and I think he's more durable than Sawadi. So to me, I see this fight playing out two-way. It's kind of hard to know, but I'm gonna pick Sawadi to win a decision. But I can see Radzhabov winning by knockout as well. I think you can catch him early. I think he's gonna have maybe. You need to kind of finish him under 1.5 round to finish him. I don't think he's going to find a finish as the fight goes on, but round 1, round 2 is live for a finish. I don't think his sub is as likely as what people might think, because he submitted low-level guys, and I don't rate his grappling that much, and I do rate Sawadi grappling. So if he gets a finish, I think it's going to be a knockout. On the other end, I can see Sawadi. I know that he's kind of live for a knockout himself, but I think Radzhabov is very tough. And if the leg kicks are not as important as the last fight, I'm not too sure that he's going to finish him. So step down in competition for Radzhabov, step up in competition for Sawadi making his UFC debut. And he's a decent favorite. He's minus 175-ish. So on the money line, it gotta be dog or pass. But I was able to snipe some line and bet online for this one. Yeah, I'm gonna give it out because the lines are not available right now. But they opened Radzhabov KO plus 485, which I think was crazy because again I think it's his more likely path to victory. And they opened the round 1 KO for Radzhabov. Can you guess what it was, Liam? Without checking,
20-1 is my guess.
20-1. Yeah, not that crazy, but still, it was 1200.
Wow.
So
at 485, that seems suggestive.
I think that was crazy, dude. So I did play that, and then the line moved, of course. So if you want to play that now, I think you kind of go with the ITD because the ITD didn't move much, but the KO got kind of hammered. So for good reasons, in my opinion. So my prediction is Sawadi to win by decision, but the value is on the Radzhabov side, and the props for Radzhabov are way better. But I also think that Sawadi decision only can be a very good way to look into this one. But I don't have the lines yet on Bet Online. So yeah, man, I think that's an interesting fight. A lot to say, but I taped that fight for a long time, dude. So yeah, that's all I have. I did tape that yesterday, so that was fresh on my memory.
Awesome. And you're ahead of me, right, in terms of the preparation. I haven't gotten to tape this one yet. So what I'll do is I'll fire off some preliminary thoughts where I thought Hardwick, there was kind of the fight with Flaminas, right, is a similar enough fight where, Flaminas just was able to deal with some of the pressure, was able to deal with some of the shots, land back his own. He was a pretty big guy. So that was the difference there. It's like, obviously Flaminas, big guy, kind of weighed on him over the course of that fight. But I do think Hardwick slows down a little bit over 15 minutes. He's very muscular. And I think he puts out like a lot of nervous energy from me watching him. Obviously in his recent fights, I think he's done a little bit better back on the regional scene, but I did think he was very nervous against Sawadi. I thought he fought very tense. And I did not think that was to his benefit. I thought Sawadi was the more confident party that night. And against Radzhabov, I'm a touch worried about that confidence coming back off of, a brutal fight against Rebecca. But I also think like the matchmaking there was no favors, right? Rebecca's a beast. He's a hard guy to deal with, physical, strong, can get on top, like not an easy guy to out wrestle, right? Like for Loic, that's like his primary path to victory. All right, I can't out wrestle him, and he's a monster on the feet as well, throwing crazy haymakers. And to your point, the low kicks that were really the difference maker there. And I think in this fight, Sawadi is a guy I can't get the best read on, because I do think his chin is sketchy. But I also agree with you. You can make a justification for each one of the losses independently, but I think it's the fact that there's 3 of them together throughout a career without that much activity. Yeah. And a lot of it was on the regional scene, against regional level opponents, right? Guys that didn't make it to the UFC, something like that. Didn't end up being the highest level fighter. So not bad records, but just maybe more wild and like willing to get into these crazy brawling type fights, whereas a little bit less on the technical side. I think that this is a difficult fight to call because my initial instinct was Sawadi, but I believe this line is actually flipped. Let me make sure I don't speak out of turn here.
Yeah, I can.
I think Radzhabov opened the favorite.
Minus 175, I think. Pretty sure. Let me tell you.
Wow, yeah, and to see him move to plus 142, I mean, that is a pretty significant move, right?
Minus 175. Recency bias on this.
If I remember correctly, Brian Ortega opened as the favorite, and instantly the line flipped on that fight. So I do think we've seen a number of examples where public bettors, whether they're sharp or not, get on the early lines. They attack them when they come out. Cool beans. They're not always going to be right. But if they get a big bet on the limit and they think, hey, maybe we have this one backwards, let's see if we can write it on the other side, they're going to do that. They're going to try and see where the market will meet them with resistance. And I think plus 140 has shown itself to be that point of resistance. I don't think they're going to see this line go much higher than that throughout the course of this week. In fact, it may come back down a little bit, but yeah, I think that the line, it's a dogger pass situation for me. How about you, brother? You had something you wanted to add, it looked like?
Yeah, I agree with you for the line, but yeah, man, I feel like sometimes I talk about fading the hype, which I think is very important, but also recency bias is another very important thing, and even us as better as we do this seriously, right? So even me, sometimes I get caught into recency bias. So sometimes you need to put your head off a little bit and just check, am I like getting caught into the hype or the recency bias of his last fight or something? And I think people are kind of low on Radzhabov after his last fight, and they're kind of high on Sawadi because he beat Hardwick, was a big prospect, and people was what he was like plus 300 in that fight, I think. And I didn't pick him to win. Let me tell you that I think I bet Hardwick by knockout. So yeah, I think Sawadi is definitely improving, and I think he's a good fighter. But yeah, I think that's a good fight, dude. I'm excited for this one. So yeah, for KO1 for Radzhabov, it's like a 10 unit right of the night. So it'll be great, dude.
I'm excited for it, my man. I hope that you get all your bets across the finish line here. Haven't bet anything myself, but Tajikistan, those boys have done me right when I've gone to the well with them, except for Muin Gafurov. And I faded Muin Gafurov successfully as well with my boy Chad and Hellinger. So had a lot of success with these Tajik fighters. And I think if Rebecki was going to fight Sawadi, he would probably put him in the dirt pretty easily. So just a personal opinion, but based on the power, based on his ability to wrestle and grapple as well, meet him in those positions, I think that would be a very winnable fight for my guy. So with that being said, Mateusz Rebecki, a prospect to watch, but in this fight, I think Loic Radzhabov is potentially the side. So good fight though, fun scrap. And I think both of these guys can win more fights in the UFC. You know, like they both have a pretty serviceable style. I just don't think their ceilings are very high overall. You know, I think they're kind of guys that are destined to be 15 to, 35, 40 type guys in the lightweight division. But with that being said, man, let's move to this next fight where we've got a 185-pound matchup. Did this line flip as well? I can't remember. Claudio Ribeiro opened minus 250. That seems unbelievable to me.
Yeah, this line was there for like 2 minutes, Liam. So I had the line available for me. I check on it. I'm like, wait a minute. So is that the right guy that I'm thinking about? Because this line doesn't make sense. Then I'm looking into Topology just to confirm before I'm making the bet. I had like plus 180 or plus 160 on CLD. I saw the line was dropping like crazy, and then I'm looking. I'm like, oh yeah, so that's the guy I'm thinking about. Why is he plus money? What am I missing? So I didn't do tapes yet, so I was a little bit hesitant to bet him. And then minus 110, minus 150. I'm like, oh okay, damn, fuck that. So, but yeah, he was like after like I think 2-3 minutes, he was a favorite already. Crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a clear misprice. Like I think they literally might have just like opened that backwards. You know what I'm saying? It's very rare that they do that, but it just seemed like a misprint to me. You look at Ribeiro, obviously fought a good opponent last time in Roman Kopylov, guy who's on a 4-fight streak heading into his Fluffy Hernandez beatdown. But when you look, the Fluffy Hernandez experience, the worst thing you could ask for in the middleweight division.
Round 2, round 3, Fluffy, cash it.
Good stuff. And this fight, man, I think CLD, he's kind of let people down a little bit. Maybe that's why, there was some thought like, hey, this guy, he hasn't always fought optimally. Even last time out, he didn't submit the worst grappler in the division. He makes some interesting choices out there, but I think Claudio Ribeiro is kind of a bonehead, just like calling a spade, like this guy lands his best punch of the fight against, what's his name?
Kopylov.
Kopylov. Yeah. He lands his best punch of the fight. Nice right hand. Kopylov's like backed up, staggering towards the fence. My man shoots a takedown. Just like unbelievable, dude. The Kelvin Gastelum effect. And I think that was a fight that told me like, I can't bet on this guy. Like, unless he is a massive underdog here, right? I had the fight ends by sub in that last fight. So I did think like, man, hopefully he keeps wrestling. Hopefully he keeps grappling. Then he gets kicked right in the face, goes to sleep. I won't even like criticize you too bad. You get kicked in the face, so you go out, whatever. But I did not like how he's reacted to shots. In what I've seen, I don't think his cardio is very good either. I think a lot of what he does is, more hype than substance. So for me, I just think he's going to run into CLD, who's better than him in most positions here. And unless CLD lays another egg, I think he should win this one pretty easy. How about you, brother? I know you said the thoughts on the line movement, but would you tend to agree he's going to win the fight?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a good read on the CLD. Like I bet him in his debut against Dusko. So that was an injury. Can't really take too much into that, but he was I got him, I think, minus 175 or something. And then I bet Petrosian pretty large at plus money against him in that fight. That was a good bet. And I didn't bet his last fight because he was a big favorite. So I decided to pass on this one. But yeah, Ribeiro on the other end, I did bet against him with Kopylov. I think I bet the knockout, or I had Kopylov in a parlay. I'm not too sure. I think that was the knockout for Kopylov. Yeah, I think the knockout was plus money with Kopylov in that spot. So yeah, to me, Liam, you kind of nail it. Like, his cardio is not good, and he has bad fight IQ, and he swing. But CLD is very durable, so I don't think it's very likely that Ribeiro knock him out. And he has way better cardio, and he's super tricky, and he's doing flashy stuff. So a guy that's swinging big like him, I think he's gonna get caught with something. Maybe it's an elbow, a knee, flying a kick. Who knows, right? But he's gonna get caught at some point. But I think maybe he can survive the first round, because if you look into it, Ribeiro has like a good first round, but that's after that he slowed down. So when you look a little bit into it, I don't think like CLD is a first round guy. I think he's more of like he can catch you with a big shot, but like he's more of an flashy striker that's gonna knock you out at some point, So to me, Liam, it's more like if I had to bet a bet on this fight, which I'm probably gonna pass, but CLD round 2, I think it's interesting because that's kind of how Ribeiro tend to lose with his bad cardio and everything. And I think CLD is gonna try to find his shots early, and I think he's gonna finish him in the second round. So that's my prediction of the fight. And right now you got plus 425 on Bet Online for CLD round 2, which I think is pretty good. But maybe we get like a plus 550, plus 600 on another book if we're lucky. Maybe I'm going to be looking into that. Moneyline wise, I agree that it's dog or pass. I don't think CLD has the best fight IQ either. He's losing minutes on the feet, doing flashy stuffs, and I don't like that from him. So yeah, I don't think he's not someone that I want to lay minus 275 on. But that's a good matchup for him, and he should get a knockout. I think in the second round. So maybe the round 2 KO, or just the round 2. Because if Ribeiro is tired, CLD, I know he doesn't have. I don't think he has a sub in his career yet. He has one sub, but I remember watching his amateur, because I did tape him a lot when he came into the UFC, and the dude he can snatch a choke. So if you had fight end by sub last time with the copy
plus 1100, yep.
Yeah, so maybe you see what I see, but I think Ribeiro he can get submitted in that spot, and if CLD hurt him, he could go for a sub. So I'm not like I don't advise people to pick the knockout. So yeah, maybe you go with the round 2, round 3, but I don't think he's gonna last till round 3. And I think he can survive the first round. So round 2 plus 425, and then you bet a plus 425 prop on a minus 280 favorite, So yeah, but I also advise people to wait, because Bet Online doesn't have the best lines for the round props. Normally you can get better odds. I bet you we can get like plus 550 on another book, but I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with this one now, Liam.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm going to give this one a little more thought. The one thing I want to make sure that I look for on tape is whether or not CLD throws leg kicks, because if I remember correctly, Abdulrazak Al-Hassan just had this guy like disabled standing in front of him with the low kicks very easily. And I think that also could force some panic shots out of him. So yeah, just a lot of different interesting ways to play this fight, but it does seem to me like they opened the wrong favorite. And I think Claudio Ribeiro has a chance. Like, he's not a worthless fighter. He's got some power in his hands. He does throw aggressively. Typically in the first round, he's got a whole entourage, a hype posse. They come out and bring the energy. But I just think that they bring too much energy. They come out, doing like the dancing and all this stuff. And then they're gassed 6 minutes into the fight and, looking for the door. So that's kind of what I see here, but he's fought a pretty tough strength of schedule as well. So looking to get back on track here, but I don't think they're doing him any favors with CLD, another guy who has an extensive amateur background and an ability to mix it up on the ground. I think he did a great job covering that. So with that being said, my man, last fight of the night, excited to break it down with you. If they don't say I look like Mateusz Rebecki, they tell me I look like Ludovic Klein, and he's fighting AJ Cunningham in this one, my man. AJ Cunningham, the cousin of Bryce Mitchell, going to have just a fraction of the professional experience, despite these guys being the same age, 29 years of age. Ludovic Klein been fighting at a higher level in the UFC, been producing at a higher level in the UFC as well. And he's actually been fighting at a higher level regionally, in my humble opinion. Octagon, not the greatest regional scene you've ever come across, but it's not bad either. And I do think AJ Cunningham kind of had some, decent soft matchmaking throughout his run. And I think when he's fought the tougher levels of opposition, it's been actually scary to watch him just get beat up in these fights. He seems like a guy with a lot of heart, a lot of toughness, willingness to go out there and put it all on the line, but almost too tough for his own good, putting himself in harm's way. And I think Ludovic Klein could probably do whatever he wants to him in this spot. How do you feel, my man?
Yeah, Liam, to me, Klein in his last fight, he looks very good because Bahamondes is tough, and he has good takedown defense. So he was able to hurt him and he was able to take him down. That was pretty impressive to me. And dude, I don't know if you've looked in it on his Instagram recently, Liam, but the dude looks to be on all the juice. Crazy, dude. Like, I don't know if you know the picture that I'm talking about, but he looks to be on some serious stuff. So we know that he used to be at 145. And now he's at 155, and I think that it's good for him because at first I thought maybe he would be a little bit undersized, but then we know that he kind of gassed in some fights, especially maybe the weight cut was hard for him. Now at 155, I think it's better for his cardio. I think it's better for his durability, and he has good speed, a good speed advantage against people at 155. So I think that's pretty good for him in this spot, and I just think that you kind of find. Like now he's on the right way. I think Klein. He had a little bit of let me just he lost to Trizano and Manuel, but you can see that like the Mason John performance was very good. The Bahamondes very, very impressive, and he was supposed to fight Joel Alvarez. So to me, that's a massive step down in competition for Klein. So I understand why he's a big favorite. AJ's taking this fight on very, very short notice. To be honest, I have not taped this guy yet. I only wiki cap him, so I'm not going to talk about him too much. Maybe Liam, you did, but yeah, he beat lower level guys, and he lost to low level guys. Also, he's coming off after a win to 8 and 10 guys. Pretty bad look in my opinion. And the guy's getting finished as well, even on the regional. Like he doesn't have a good regional career, getting finished. So I might be looking into Klein ITD, but I'm gonna need to look into this guy a little bit more. And maybe I'm just gonna pass because I don't think that we're gonna get a good number. The under 1.5 is true. I think they opened it today, so the under 1.5 is minus 165. Yes, so it's probably just a pass for me. I'm gonna enjoy. I'm happy that Klein's still on the card because I love him, and I think he's gonna go. I think he's on his run to go like to the top 15 maybe.
You know what's funny, man, is he didn't end up looking so great in that fight, but they had brought Stephen Wynn back. I think that was the third time or the fourth time on Contender Series, if my memory serves, right? If I'm misremembering, then somebody please let me know. I'm gonna check right now just so I make sure I don't speak out of pocket here. But I'm pretty sure, he lost on Contender Series and then won twice. And now he's signed to the UFC. So honestly, guys, I think they brought in AJ Cunningham because they were like, this guy will lose to Steve Wynn and get finished so we could actually sign this guy. So I always think about what the UFC is doing. And they've given, Ludovic Klein some tough fights at various points in his career, but he's mostly come up aces. And like some of the fights where he lost, he was a big favorite against Mike Trizano. Guys, I bet Mike Trizano, I was the luckiest hell to cash that fight, right? I bet like 0.6 units plus 200. I was like, whoo. Right? Like he went for the takedowns. Ludovic Klein does slow down a little bit over the course of the fight. I think that's the only path for Cunningham, right? Like I think Cunningham has to go out there, take a beating, take a absolute thumping and just survive. And that would be his path to winning a fight, getting on top late, something like that. I don't see it though. I think he's going to get finished. I think he's going to get hurt. And I think, Ludovic, like I said, any way he wants to finish this, any way he wants to close the show, I think he could do it. Fought the better guys, beat the better guys, been more tested. Give me Ludovic Klein as a big favorite to get the job done. How can I bet against myself? You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta back myself here. And I also will say I've taken the opportunity to bet Ludovic Klein in the past, 3 units plus 172 against Devontae Smith. So the market's been up and down on this guy. But I think that overall he's presented some real money-making opportunities, but I have lost a bunch of money on Ludovic Klein props. So that's what I gotta do my due diligence here, make sure that I zone in on how this fight's going to get finished. But I think that this fight is not seeing the scorecards more often than not. please go ahead, my man. Any closing thoughts that you have on this matchup and anything else you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, he's profitable as a dog. Also, Liam, I was looking into betting him with. I mean, I did bet. I bet Klein against Alvarez. The fight got canceled, and yeah, I got plus 150. I think it was. One of the reasons was because he's very profitable as an underdog, and but now he's minus 650. So I don't have much interest to bet him. Maybe the KO prop is good, but I think maybe he can submit this guy. So. Yeah, Alvarez is fighting Rebeski. Yeah, that's a banger, dude. I'm excited for this one.
Absolute banger, and I have an early lean on that one that I'll keep to myself for now. But very fascinating matchup. Very fascinating. Those little balls of muscle, man, they can be difficult to deal with. That's what Rebecki is, man. He's kind of like short, stout. Not the longest limbs, but he'll make you pay with what he's got. I feel.
Yeah, the dude's
great
good.
matchup, man. Size versus skill and strength. Like it's a really interesting matchup.
I'm excited for this one, but at the same time, I don't understand why they don't push Alvarez for like a top 15 fight or something. Like that's a crazy.
I think it was that controversy a little bit with the Diakese.
Yeah, that's true. I had the sub and sub 2 in that fight, Liam. I was like, oh, okay, I got it. but Diakese was kind of he was building into the fight, so I think I got lucky there, to be honest.
It was an interesting one because I did think Joel was the side there, but I also didn't bet it. Like I just felt like something was off, and then there was something off, right? It was a weird ending to the fight. But overall, I just feel like Joel Alvarez is a more dangerous fighter than Mark Diakese, like every day of the week.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That is always a factor I try and consider the most is like who's more dangerous, which a lot of people don't always ask. They ask like the minute winning and who's going to be like winning each exchange. But I'm just like, if one guy could be out there for 15 minutes and find a way to win at some point because he's more dangerous, that's the thing that I like for upside purposes. And I think that, this guy Ludovic Klein, very dangerous. So that's what I like here. But man, big favorite. And I think we've done a pretty good job breaking down this card. So hope that you guys have enjoyed. Hope that you guys will make sure that you smash the like button if you enjoyed the content. Make sure that you hit subscribe if you want to come back later in the week. We're going to be talking through these fights with the benefit of a little bit more research, a little bit more due diligence. We might have some more official bets ready to rumble at that point. So if you're looking for more information from me, you can find that down in the description box. And I got to update it to include my guys, JB and Dravy. I was under the weather. I was asleep for most of the time before this show, but I want to make sure that you guys go follow on Twitter our boy Dravy. Really appreciate him making the time today. And also check out all the great work that he is doing. Brother, please take the floor. The mic is yours.
Hey, thanks, Liam. It's always cool to go on your show, bro. Always good energy. Even if you're sick, it doesn't appear like so. So that's always fun. And yeah, man, thanks for having me. And yeah, I think there's some good bets to be made on this card. Just need to maybe go a little bit into the props, because like if you only parlay the minus 700 and one of them lose, you're not going to be happy with yourself. So yeah, I think that's a good card. You can find me on Twitter, Dravy_. You can follow my Dub Club. I still run a 50% promo till the end of the month. So if you want to join now for all the next month, so you can do it now. Also join my Telegram. I post a free bet every week on Twitter. And yeah, I mean, up 40 units this year already. We're only at the end of February and coming after a 100 unit year. So I want to keep the train rolling, but I'm not going to stop. Like a good year, good results, but it's always because of the grind. So I got to keep grinding,
Absolutely, brother. We always say on this show, the bookie ain't going to pay us for the work that we did last week, but I think that we've been doing a great job. Always appreciate having you here, my man. You drop some great thoughts. You're always intellectual. You have an argument, an opinion. You can tell that you're prepared in terms of the tape, the knowledge. Like I always say, first look, I come to you guys a little less prepared. I like to let you guys know up front, hey, I'm going to be back later in the week with more information. But my guy, Dravy, absolute hats off to you. Not only beating some of these lines, but also just having the work done early in the week. It's hard, man. With 13, 14 fights, oftentimes these weeks, it can be a grind to get through all that content, especially doing what we're doing, coming out, trying to talk about these fights as well. So I just respect the hustle there, my man. And excellent job. Keep up the good work, brother. We wish you the best. And just I wanted to say a special thank you to everybody who stuck with us to the end. We still got 68 people rocking with us live just at the 2-hour mark here. And I want to say thank you guys so much for rocking with us. God bless you all. Enjoy those fights and come back next time. We're back for Bets and Banter on Thursday, and we're having all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody.